Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva. All right, so today we're going to talk about helping you understand the difference between your destiny and your karma. So we've got the different words here that are used. A lot of people don't know the difference. Not only do many people not know the difference between some of these names, but they mistake them. So destiny, what does destiny mean? What is the difference between karma and dharma? What is the difference between Wyrd versus Orlog? In my ancestral tradition, those were the words that were used. Wyrd versus Orlog. I don't know that people talked about it in that way because their thinking was much different than ours. So I guess let's start with that. What is destiny? What does that mean? So when you talk about destiny in the Western mind, when you're talking about destiny in the Western mind, you are talking about whether or not you're religious, it doesn't matter. You're talking about God's will. The Western world, and now much of the entire world, but the Western world especially, has been very powerfully dominated by the dualist, monotheist, Abrahamic understandings. And what is happening here? Sorry about that. So it doesn't matter whether you grew up in a religious household or not. And it doesn't. If you live in the Western world, you are dominated by this dualist thinking, black and white, good or bad, and this came from Christianity. So if you did come from a religious background, then you are familiar with, people asking the phrase, "What is God's will for me?" I just wish I knew what God's will for me was. You've heard the phrase, God has a plan for your life. So the unstated assumption there is if you could just figure out what God's will for you is, then at least you wouldn't have to worry about what to do, where to go. You'd know what God's will for you was. So this has the association with destiny. Even if somebody, again, if they're not consciously religious, they have been programmed with this idea. When somebody says, I found my destiny, finding my destiny, they will unconsciously be thinking, what is God's will? Destiny is something that happens outside of you. You just have to find out what it is. You don't really have any say in the matter. If we're talking about the Greek mythological understanding, then destiny does its thing on you no matter what, and all of your attempts to try and thwart destiny actually bring it about. That's also, again, sort of connected to this idea. But bear in mind, these kinds of ideas where you have this destiny that can be tragic and traumatic, this destiny has power over you whether you like it or not, and your job is to find out what it is, and even then it doesn't matter because it will find you. So that is a specific thought process. That's a specific idea. And so I want to introduce to you some different ideas so that you can have permission to start thinking differently. I catch myself in this all the time. Who am I meant to be with? Where am I meant to live? And all that kind of stuff, as though there's some plan out there. as though God has a plan, and it's up to you to align yourself with God's plan. But I really don't like that idea of having to knuckle under to some other plan that's been written without my permission. I really don't like that idea personally, but my personal experience is that that's also not the case. But it doesn't mean that there aren't things that influence our life, like karma or Wyrd. So let's just take a look at the names here. So karma versus dharma. So karma, as you know, is stuff that comes, that influences your life based on your past lives. Now, if you hear the basic nonsense, it'll be because of the mistakes that you've made and you feel you're being punished or you have to learn a lesson. And so being human is this task of drudgery where you must learn some, the whole idea, again, I really bristle at the thought that being human is, some kind of a punishment. If I take my personal emotional reactions out of it, which I have, if I take my personal emotional reactions out of it, it's sad for a few reasons, because the assumption is that you don't want to be here. And the assumption is that this is a bad place to be, that this is sort of like limbo, or where is that where Catholics go? It's not hell, but it's sort of in this place of, why does my brain not work when I'm trying to talk? But you know what I'm talking about. And if I bring my own personal reactions to it, I get very annoyed. I become hostile. I feel anger because of the weakness. I don't like weakness in myself, or perceived weakness in myself. So somebody who believes that this world is a punishment, I see you as weak. And so I have negative responses to that, emotional responses. If I take that out, it's sad, because what I've learned is that this life and all of its challenges are actually really amazing, wonderful, blissful experiences. And when you're really able to flow with your Dharma, with your Orlog, with what I call your soul desire, when you are operating solely from that, which, by the way, does take some work. If you're able to do that, then this life is orgasmically, blissfully fun. And the thought of not being here becomes sad, as I'm reaching, I'm 57 and I'll be 58, not too long, less than half a year. It's, the numbers are constantly telling me how old I am. In terms of my physical body doesn't seem to give a crap. I seem to be doing pretty well. And my new, I wish I had his name offhand. I haven't remembered his name. My new hero is this 81-year-old CrossFit champion guy. He competes in these, these CrossFit competitions. And he looks amazing. He could pass for 60, easy. If you saw him, you'd think, oh, that guy's 60. He's 81. When I think 80, I think old and, barely functional. I mean, people do die of old age at 81. So he's my new hero. That, if you just decide to stay healthy and you do the work to stay healthy, apparently you can be really healthy. You can look decades younger than you really are. And why does that appeal to me? Because it appeals to me because the thought of getting old and decrepit, I have no interest in that. And people spend decades being old. You know, a lot of people at my age are already old. I mean, you know, this is one of the challenges I have when it comes to dating, is because, you know, I'm just being straight with you. The vast majority of women my age just are a mess. They're a wreck. You know, they barely function. Some of them are athletic. You know, not all of them. So not all of them are old, but you know, I mean, it boggles my mind. I'll see women that are 10 years younger than me. I'm like, oh my God, you look like my grandmother. So my judgment on that, when I look at that, and it's my judgment, I'm just being straight with you. My judgment is, wow, you really just let yourself go. I mean, how have you stayed physically active? Have you wanted to be physically healthy? You know, and it's obvious now. If you're listening to me now, if you're young, I'm telling you now, if you're smoking, might as well just get out the wheelchair now. Smoking, drinking, doing drugs, weed. You might as well just start planning your old age infirmity now. One of the reasons that, you know, that guy, by the way, who's 81, he's been physically fit his whole life. You know, he was a bodybuilder and a weightlifter and martial arts and running and marathons. He's been doing that his whole life. You know, CrossFit, he found it when he was 69. But he was already in really good shape. So, you know, if you want to be healthy and happy when you're older, knock that shit off. It's not cool. You know, I'm sounding like an old man. I mean, I used to smoke. I smoked a lot. I did drugs and alcohol in my teens. I did a lot of drugs and alcohol in my teens. But when I see, especially like a young, good-looking girl and she's smoking a cigarette, it takes everything in me not to walk up to her and go, what the fuck are you doing? Not only is that not cool, it smells. It's just disgusting. And it's on your breath and it's in your hair. And if I come anywhere near you, if you're smoking and I'm like half a mile away, I can smell it. It's on your clothes. It comes out of your pores. It comes out of your lady parts. It's just gross. But it's none of my business. So of course I don't say anything. So what does this have to do with anything we're supposed to be talking about? I don't know. I'm ranting. All right. So we're talking about this rune, PERTHRO rune. So this rune, when it comes up, if you were to give it a word, you would give it the word destiny. So let's talk about it from an astrological perspective. From an astrological perspective, those of you who are astrology students, if you want to know your karma, which is the unavoidable challenges that will feel like if there's a part of you where it feels like the world is coming down on you. Those of you think I'm going to say Saturn, and you're wrong. In your chart, the aspect of your life that is the unavoidable issues and challenges that you cannot avoid is where your moon is. The moon is your mind. That's why I chose this picture. I was really happy when I saw this picture when I was searching for the picture online to put all this text on. You see the moon there, and then you see the PERTHRO rune behind it. Because that is a really good indication of your destiny, your karma, that which you cannot avoid. Your moon will tell you that. So I'm lucky, and anybody who has this placement of the moon is also lucky, because in your chart, where you find your power to determine your life is your ascendant. So this is why the ascendant is so important. This is why in Vedic astrology, your sign is your ascendant. Your ascendant changes very quickly. Your sun sign doesn't. It stays the same for 30 days. And you, just because you're born a Virgo, for instance, in Western, doesn't mean anything, because for the entire month that Virgo is that the sun is in Virgo, that means everybody else has that same sign, and you're just very different from them. If you're honest with yourself, your sun sign really doesn't tell you your personality, unless because of there's other things in it. So it's possible that it still can. Sometimes your ascendant and your in Vedic and your sun sign in Western is the same, and so sometimes you're right, but by accident. But your sun sign doesn't tell you your personality. It doesn't tell you your karma. It doesn't tell you your destiny. It tells you some things about your internal ego and things about your father, things like that. But your moon is your mind. Your mind is your emotions. By the way, I just found this out in Old English. I wish I could remember the word, but in Old English, the word for mind was spirit chest. Like a chest that you put treasures in. A spirit space. And it meant your thoughts, your emotions. It meant the heart. That even in Anglo-Saxon, the word for mind was the heart space. So all of this stuff you're seeing over here in all these links, especially the thunderwizard.com and the Mao Shan, this is about empowering the heart space, the true mind, the heart mind. The mind is not the intellect. You've been told that because Christianity had a vested interest in making you a sheep, and the best way to turn you into a sheep is to have you live only in your intellect and to stay out of your emotions. And the more you live in your intellect, the less you're able to be conscious of and control your emotions. We're going to talk about that. So let me lay out what we're going to talk about, and if you need to, you can keep me on track. So in order for today's reading, because today's video, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to talk about. I'm still really, my fur is in a ruffle based on what I was talking about last time, which is never good. It's never good for my channel when I talk about politics. It's never good. I always lose subscribers. I don't regret it because the people I lose end up being looky-loos anyways, who don't do any work and don't support the channel. That's always been the case. The people that unsubscribe when I talk about politics are people that just come on for entertainment and are stuck in their head. And they ask a ton of questions, but they actually don't do any work, and they're really quite annoying, and they take up everybody else's time. So I don't miss. I say that because somebody, felt the need to tell me why they were leaving, and I said, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. By the way, if we ever do live, like, if there ever comes a point where I'm like in like a room and we've got full of people, and somebody complains, I'll ask the crowd, what is it that I say? And then you can all chant in unison, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Anyway, so what I did today to figure out what I wanted to talk about was I did a rune reading because I just couldn't think of something. All I wanted to do is I just wanted to pull up people's comments, and I wanted to psychoanalyze people, and I enjoy doing that. But if I'm just pissed off and angry, it does. Some people enjoy it. Some of the less conscious people enjoy watching me get pissed off, but it doesn't really accomplish anything. It doesn't help the channel, and doesn't help my business. So I took a reading and I said, what should I talk about today? And so the first rune that came up, because I did if you've read my rune books, this was the 4 runes where you have the indicator rune, then you have past, present, and future, right? So the first one that came up was PERTHRO. So I said, I love talking about destiny. And then in the left side was Isa, which is identity, ego, self-empowerment. In the center was Laguj reversed, which means unconscious emotions. And in the right was Berchtana reversed, which means what's coming to an end, what wants to die. So what does that have to do with destiny? If you want to find out what your true destiny is, then we have to go through this process. We have to go through this process of first finding your identity, your true identity, your true spiritual identity. You have to be willing to become conscious of your unconscious emotional issues. And you must be willing to give up things. PERTHRO reversed is not the same as PERTHRO reversed. PERTHRO reversed means that that's never going to happen, that's come to an end. The universe, the matrix, everything has closed the door on that. It will not ever happen. Stop trying, you're beating your head against a brick wall. When PERTHRO shows up reversed, it means that which wants to die, but it doesn't have to. In other words, you can keep doing it if you want, but it's bringing death to you. So linking it up with what I said earlier, that 81-year-old guy who, I mean, if you were to look at him, he looks like me. He might look a couple years older than I think I look. But that guy has followed the PERTHRO of his physical body by keeping it in shape. He's kept it in shape. He's stayed away from junk and chemicals and et cetera, and he exercises. I mean, he's in much better physical condition than I am, and I'm in great physical condition. If I were to do his workout, it would destroy me. Which maybe I should take that as maybe I should start doing his workout. So your destiny is your highest potential. That if you take the correct actions for your soul and the correct actions in general, that this is the highest that you can achieve for yourself. It is your destiny. But within here also we've got your karma, which is what is unavoidable. You cannot avoid certain things. There are things that you're born with, issues and challenges that you cannot avoid. Those things have the potential to bring death to you. They have the potential to bring that if you allow this to divert you from this and this. So do you understand that? Karma comes from the word for works. Kali is a goddess of karma. She represents the planet Saturn, which is the unavoidable karma you must live out. And the karma you must live out destroys this if you allow it to teach you. And you have to allow it. People think karma is the lessons and you're forced. You're not forced. If you don't want to learn the lessons, you can continue to do this all you want. You can continue to deny your emotions and your unconscious. You can do that all you want. And you will end up with this. So what's the difference between this 81-year-old guy? He's only 81. We'll see. Who knows how long the guy will live. Eventually he will reach his expiration date. And who knows what he'll look like. I'm going to be really interested to watch this guy as he goes into his 80s and what happens to him physically. My personal observation is that, you get past 90 and, the physical body just starts coming apart. I mean, people who are 100 years or older, I wouldn't want to live like that. So I have no interest in ever becoming that debilitated and old and unable to function. I hope that never happens to me. I hope I die long before. In fact, my fantasy is that my last day on Earth, now I know exactly where I want to live in the surf spot where I want to live next to. I figured that out. So I found my Orlog my last day on this earth, if I have anything to say about it, will be that I am going to go surfing, surf beautiful waves. I'm then going to go have a wonderful massage. I'll go home and have sex with my wife, whom I'm yet to meet. I'll go to sleep happy with a smile on my face, and I just won't wake up. That's going to be my last day on this planet. I don't care what age I am. That's what I want my last day to be. I definitely don't want to be sitting around in a wheelchair. No fucking way. I'll jump off a cliff before that happens. But what's the difference between this 81-year-old guy who looks like he's my age? He looks like a healthy, not just like he looks 50. He looks like a healthy 55-year-old guy. What's the difference between him and, let's say, my mother, for example, who by the time she was 81 was, had memory issues, didn't know what was going on, more than 10 seconds at a time. My mom has never been healthy. She's never been active. She's never been physically fit. She's dead now. So what's the difference between that guy and my mom? The difference is this. This is the process of death that comes to you as a result of you not fully living this. Which means first knowing what this is, your identity. You have to know who you truly are. So as Jung says, you must make the unconscious conscious, or it will determine your life and you will call it fate. Fate has that feeling of what you cannot avoid, karma. You will call it God. There are two things that my teacher says that the unconscious definitely decides for you. That is who you marry and what you do for a living. I can attest to the first one because my marriage, the only, actual legal marriage that I had, I was spiritually married to my fiance who passed away, unfortunately. But legally, I've only had one marriage. And I can definitely say that she was unconsciously my mother. I had married my mother. Now you know why we're divorced. It didn't work out so good. So I can experience that. Now that I've worked through that and I've made what's unconscious conscious to the best of my ability, I know all of that, stuff. And that's why I was able to attract the perfect woman. And I'm sure I will attract another one before I'm done with this physical life. But I forgot what I was saying. But this here represents, it doesn't mean that this is what you can't avoid. It means this is the death, because berchtano means to give birth. So this means the process of death, that which is dying. So the difference between my mom and that guy is that my mom was not a very conscious woman. She was not conscious of her emotions. She was very unconscious and destructive and self-destructive. She worked really hard not to. I mean, I've never seen anybody work harder to not know what their unconscious issues were, which is why she, had dementia when she, the last years of her life, she had dementia because she had worked really hard to not know what her feelings were, and she didn't want to know what was really going on. And so the universe gave her what she wanted. In the last years of her life, she couldn't remember anything for more than 10 seconds at a time. If you were talking to her, if you've ever talked to somebody with dementia, they'll say, "How are you? How's your job going?" "Oh, it's going great." "Oh, that's so good." "And how's your job going?" They'll ask you the same question. For as long as you talk to them, they'll ask you the same question over and over again. Doesn't matter how many times you answer, they won't hear you. So they can't remember anything because they don't They don't want to know. They didn't want to know their whole lives. So disease, in my experience, is this: cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, fibromyalgia, the whole thing, all of it. Doesn't matter what the old age disease is. It's this. It's the result of you not knowing this and following this. If you don't know what this is, it means you're conscious of who you truly are, and you don't follow your highest destiny, then you still will have an expiration date. If you're meant to live till you're 85 or 95 or 100, that expiration date doesn't change. But if you, on an emotional, psychological level, if you're not willing to look at your unconscious and resolve your unconscious karmic issues, if you're not willing to die to yourself, like Dr. Manhattan over here, if you're not willing to do that, then this process of death will come to you, and you will have a slow grind. You will become sick, debilitated, angry, miserable, and then, like my mom, whatever, everybody's different. You'll end up spending the last years of your life in a very unpleasant state. So what's the difference? What's the difference between that guy, my new hero, the 81-year-old amazing, guy looks great, he's in incredible physical condition. What's the difference between him and my mom? It's the actions that you take. The actions that you take toward your destiny. You cannot separate your destiny from the actions that you take. Now the question is, are you taking the actions that guide you towards your destiny, or are you taking the actions that bring about decay? And I've done my best to share with you, how I want to do that and how I've learned to do that. I share with you what I've learned. And the first one is, if you haven't found it, go watch the playlist and or get the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Please don't ask me where to find it, because behind me there are links. And I'm not going to tell you which link it is, but if you click on one of those links and put effort into it, you can find where my books are. If you don't want to buy the book, or you don't like to read, you can listen to me read the book on this channel, but you actually have to learn how to find that. I'm not going to do the work for you. Because what I say is true, the two most important things in life, which are the two most important things for you to achieve your highest destiny, is pay attention and put effort. If you don't do those things, nothing happens. This happens. Sit around on your ass eating Cheetos, watching television, you will begin to decay, and you do that for years, you will be miserable. You will be in pain, you'll be taking medication, and you'll be old. If I have anything to say about it, I'm never going to get old. I refuse to let that happen. Okay, so what else did I want to say? So let's go in order here. So number one, what is your true identity? So as it turns out, your soul. Okay, so let me back up. Let me see if I can condense this without going off on tangents. So in your astrology, your moon placement shows you the karma that you cannot avoid, meaning the lessons, the challenges that will come that you cannot avoid. Whatever house that's placed in, that's where your issues are going to be. Your ascendant shows you the power that you have to determine your life path. If you're like me and you're lucky, as I was going to say earlier, if your moon is in your ascendant, then you have the power to not allow your karma to block you from your destiny. Now that has its own challenges, because if your moon is in your first house, it means that you cannot avoid your feelings. That you will be a highly emotional person. You will be an empath. That's one of the signs of a true empath, is you have moon in the first house. And everything associated with that. So this is why there's no mystery why I wrote that book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. There's no mystery as to the fact that I am teaching people how to make the decisions, to take the actions to achieve what they want, because that's in my chart. So your mind is your emotions. Your heart mind is your emotions. Again, everybody, if you're new to the channel, wait until I'm done spouting. Wait until my lecture is over. And then if you have a question, because I'm only interested in your questions, write the word question in all caps and then ask your question. Today, I'm not going to indulge everybody. So if you just drop a statement, I'm either going to psychoanalyze you or I'm just going to not look at it. And if your question isn't honest, I won't be kind to you either. The two things I'm looking for in this live chat is, number one, an honest question. If you write the word question so I can see it and then ask a question, I'll like that. And if you have an honest feeling. The feeling is not, I feel that blonde-haired people are stupid. That's not a feeling, that's a judgment. A feeling is, blonde-haired people make me angry, or they make me frightened, or they turn me on. That's an honest feeling. Share with me your honest feelings and your questions, and I'll help you. Anything outside of that, I'm not interested. And do me a favor, wait till I'm done talking. Because I probably won't know what you're referencing if you write it now. Your emotions. We are emotional beings. The word for human being, originally in the Germanic, is man. Man equals two things. It equals mind and it equals moon. It's a new concept that emotions are something other than the mind. So psychology, for example, the word psychology comes from a Greek word, psyche. I don't know how to spell it in English, but in Greek I know how to spell it. Psyche logia, which means, it's psychology, which means, oh, that's right, means the study of the soul. Where is the soul? The soul is here, in your heart center. The traditional understanding of the mind was not the intellect. Like I said, I just saw this recently, but the original word in Old English for mind was heart space. Spirit, literally spirit space. And so when you talked about your thoughts, you didn't say thoughts like we do now. Not your intellect. Your thoughts were your emotions. And people who are stuck in their head, I'm constantly telling people, get out of your head, get out of your head. Too much thinking, too much thinking. Because your thinking is driven by your thoughts, which are your feelings. But your thinking is a way of avoiding your uncomfortable emotions. That's why people smoke weed. They smoke weed because they think they're having this great intellectual experience, man. But in reality, they're just cutting themselves off from their emotions. Which is why, I've done this. I can remember sitting there, man, listening to like Black Sabbath and, flipping my hair back in the 70s, man, and looking at my thumb and going, wow, man, my thumb has a whole universe in it. Do you think there's like this dude in there who's like sitting listening to Black Sabbath in his room, and he's looking at his thumbnail, and he realizes there's a universe in his thumbnail, and then that guy's thumbnail? Oh my God, that's so heavy, man. That's just a bunch of intellectual masturbation. There's nothing happening there. But people do that. They think they're deep. So if you're coming on, one guy, the guy who left my channel, one of the things he said was that he didn't like what I said politically. But one of the things he said was that he would come onto my channel because he wanted to learn about spirituality, which to me sounds like he wants to think about it. He's one of these people that thinks that spirituality is something you sit around and think about. And that's why people who smoke weed think they're spiritual, because they sit around and they talk about spiritual subjects. Means nothing. This thing on top of your head, your brain, what you think your mind is, your intellect, is here to help you figure out things in two-dimensional ways so that you won't crash your car. There's a reason why cats get run over by cars, because they don't have the intellect to figure out that traffic is going two ways, and just running out into the street doesn't guarantee my safety. They don't have the intellect to figure it out. You do. You follow these weird rules that are totally arbitrary, that here they drive on the left side of the street, and as long as you're driving on the left side of the street, you're okay. But if you merge over into the right side, which happens every now and then with me because I'm from the States, you get yourself into trouble. You might end up getting run over. So that's all that your thinking does. It helps you follow the arbitrary rules so that you can function in society, or you can drive a car or something else, or learn how to flake a stone tool. Outside of that, it really doesn't have a whole lot of function. Your emotions are what's important here. Being able to tolerate your emotions. Every single person out there listening to me right now who wants to escape the matrix, who wants to achieve enlightenment so you never have to be reborn again. Every single one of you who feels that way, and I'm not judging you, but every single one of you who feels that way, you are running away from your emotions. Your emotions are overwhelming to you, and you find them painful, and you want out. If you can learn to not only tolerate your emotions, become conscious of them, but then allow them to empower you, like Dr. Manhattan over here. Instead of being overwhelmed, his feelings, he allows them to completely destroy him. And then through his spiritual discipline, he brings himself back together. If you've ever watched the movie, it's really great, the process. When they go through the whole process of how Dr. Manhattan went through the transformation. Because he got in the thing and the whatever, electric, whatever the hell it was, tore him to pieces right there. After he gets torn to pieces, he then, over a period of, I don't know if it's weeks or months, he then chooses to bring himself back. He chooses to create a nervous system. And you see his nervous system appear. You see he then chooses to bring his bones back together. He chooses to bring his heart, his circulatory system. He chooses to reanimate his body back into the physical reality. That is such a great example. Those of you who keep asking me, how do I get over my fear? How do I get over my pain? You don't. You let it destroy you. It's just an emotion. It can't kill you. But once you've done that, then you get to be able to manipulate your reality. So stop asking me how to get out of your painful feelings. That's your karma. That is your unavoidable lessons. Now, do you think that Dr. Manhattan, after he has achieved his deityhood, do you think that he looks back at the horrific pain and trauma and fear that he must have gone through? Do you think he looks back on that and wishes it never happened? He's like, no, man, are you kidding? I can go to Mars and create my own reality. I can stop time. I see everything from... Do you think that he wants to go back to the way he was? So yeah, it's challenging. Your pain, your emotions, your unavoidable karma is challenging. It's painful. It's overwhelming. I know. But if you allow it to transform you, and if you let your soul guide the transformation process, where is he? If you allow your soul to guide the transformation process, then your destiny is that. Whoops, is that. Well, you see, this guy right here. That's your destiny if you follow this. But you can't have this without this. Make sense? So this is my thing, my judgment. I'm a warrior. I'm built to respond to life from a warrior perspective. So I teach you guys. That's why it's the Warrior 90-day challenge. That's why I do that. That's why I'm a spirit fighter. I'm a warrior. That's how I do things. So I'm happy to go to town and fight against that. You just have to show me who I'm fighting. And what I've learned is that if I'm fighting the wrong person, which is usually myself, then I create problems. Literally, my body will react. I will have severe pain. I'll have joint pain or muscle spasms, and it'll look like something, what the hell's happening to me? But it'll be because I'm taking that warrior nature and I'm facing in the wrong direction. Which is why I'm not going to talk about politics today. Which is why even after yesterday, my feelings are still there. It still infuriates me that people are so fucking stupid and so destructive, and that people are destroying democracy. It still infuriates me. But me putting my warrior energy into that doesn't serve anything. It just takes me down this hole because it doesn't change anybody's opinion. People are on the other side of the thought process there. Doesn't change their opinion. Doesn't change their actions. So I have to focus that warrior energy towards something that's going to accomplish something, which is all of this over here. I have to put it into the spirit fighting and teach you guys how to do that. That's my job. That's my Orlog. You have your own soul essence. Maybe you're a healer. Maybe you're a philosopher. Maybe you're a politician. Maybe you're one of those people that can go and talk to people who have opposing political views, and through your reasoning you can help them see the light. Or you're an evil sorcerer and you go up there and you are able to manipulate people's fears and their unconsciousness and their lack of education and their naivete, and you can create destruction. So it's you're either doing this or you're doing this. And you have to figure out what this is, and you have to become conscious of this. This is the work. This is the hardest part. And this is what I'm here to help you with. If you're my apprentice and you work with me on a one-on-one basis, then part of what I will do is I'm going to help you become conscious of your unconscious issues. That's my third eye ability. I can see. I can see in the first few words what your unconscious issue is. The question is, how long is it going to take me to help you see it, and then am I going to help you gain the strength to take the correct action? Those things I don't have control over. I lose apprentices regularly. And that's because at some point they will have to take actions, and if they're not willing to take those actions and go through that, then they're going to leave. It's just the way it works. But if you're willing to do that, and if you want me to help be there with you, hold your hand while you do that, I will help you become that. It's completely up to you. And so I wanted to talk a lot about unconscious agendas, so I'll just very briefly address it, and maybe the questions will bring it out, and then I'll look at the questions. So you have three minds. You have the conscious mind, which is your intellect that is taking information in, storing it, and telling you what it thinks is going on. But it's not true. This bottle of water looks to me like a bottle of water, but it's not. It's a bunch of different tiny processes going on. Water isn't wet. It could be, you know, all kinds of things. I think this is a mouse, but it's a bunch of other things. You look at me, you see this in your screen, and you think you know what I am, but that's all you're seeing is the reflection of light bouncing off of me. Your eyes take it in, and your intellect creates this picture of what it thinks it is, but none of us are these things. We're much more than that. You have your conscious mind. You have your subconscious mind, which is between the conscious and the unconscious. The part of your mind that, from a spiritual perspective, your third eye uses to intend your reality. I won't get into that. Then you have your unconscious. Your unconscious mind is the underworld. You want to know what the underworld is? You want to know what hell, H-E-L, which is the underworld? You want to know what that is? You want to know where you go when you die if you don't go to Valhalla or heaven or whatever thing that represents achieving enlightenment is? When you don't go to where the elves are, the ascended masters, you go to your unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is the underworld. This is where most people go who claim to be astral travelers. You're going somewhere. It's another dimension, but it's your unconscious mind. Now, as long as you know that, the unconscious mind is a treasure trove of information. And you can master the universe if you can decode your unconscious mind. In fact, the unconscious mind is what gives Dr. Manhattan his powers. Him doing that to that tank right there, that's his unconscious mind that has the power to do that. But because he's fully aware, because he went through this process, he can flex that muscle and he can create anything he wants in physical reality. He's fully conscious of himself. If you want that, then you're going to have to master your unconscious, which means you're going to have to bring your conscious mind to your conscious awareness. And for those of you, there are some people that want me to give them the special pill so they can master their unconscious today. That's not going to happen. You incarnated here so you could spend your whole life learning how to do that. And then you spend thousands of lifetimes to learn how to become a god. You want to become Dr. Manhattan. So stop complaining about being in this body. If your life is miserable, you created it. Your unconscious mind is doing it without your conscious awareness. So stop complaining. Do the work, which is this stuff here. Do the work. This is all this. The 90-day challenge. This is do the work. Let me just say again, the guy who left is somebody who I saw on my channel regularly, and he's one of those people that only came and watched videos and wanted to ask questions and get into debates. He did no work. And he eventually found an excuse to leave because at some point he's going to have to get up off his ass and do some work. And the work is the energetic the energy practices. These energy practices, if you do them, you will get high off of them. That's why I do them. I do them, I'm just being honest with you, I do them because that gets me high. Higher than any drug that I've ever experienced in my life. But it also connects me to my heart mind, my emotions. And it gives me the ability to become conscious of all of my unconscious agendas. Unconscious means you're not aware of it. And I'm going to make a statement here, and I don't give a rat's ass if you like it or not. If what I say bothers you and you need to stop watching the channel, that's okay with me. Every single person who thinks Donald Trump is a good president is operating from their unconscious. They have emotional agendas they are not aware of that are driving them to their beliefs and their actions. Now, we can debate whether I'm right or not about that. But what that means is if your life is miserable, if you are a victim, if you don't have money, you don't have love, you don't have health, it's because your unconscious mind, the emotions that you are not consciously aware of, are driving you to make unconscious decisions and driving you to have unconscious beliefs which create conscious thoughts which drive you to take actions. And those actions create decay if you are not aware of what your emotions are. The reason why you're not aware of them is because you, in order to survive your childhood or some other aspect of your life, you had to not become conscious of your feelings, because if you did, they would drive you to take actions towards your soul which would result in somebody whom you looked to as a caregiver, would result in them thinking or acting negatively toward you. So you learned how to turn your emotions upside down so you could survive. Then those inverted emotional drives, those emotions that you are struggling with, that you fight with, then take on a life of their own, and they start driving you towards beliefs, assumptions, and you respond emotionally and reactively to the world. And when you do that, you create decay, poverty, misery, unhappiness, lack of health, dysfunctional relationships. And if you want to turn this from decay into birth, then you must turn your unconscious emotions into conscious emotions. When you do that, you will know who you truly are, and you will reach your highest potential. You will reach your Dr. Manhattan. You will reach your highest PERTHRO. So I don't know if I explained it. I did my best to sort of kind of do it in a different way, but we'll see. So I'm happy to take a look at your questions only. Bear in mind, if you have not written down questions, I'm still hungover and angry from yesterday. I will be more than happy to eviscerate you if you feel the need to give us your opinion, especially if I find that opinion to be full of shit. All right, so let's take a look here. Again, I'm only interested in the questions. Let me refresh this page to make sure that I'm seeing things as they occur. All right, so Amitz Israel says something, and that is, he thinks he's being funny. But today I have no tolerance, so he's blocked. Say goodbye to him. He might have been trying to be cute, but I'm not interested in that. Jameson-san, honest feelings. Since embracing all of my feelings more, I have noticed and held simultaneous wants. Makes me feel schizophrenic to hold various feelings that have conflicting wants. That is so awesome that you are in this current state of Dr. Manhattan transformation. Now, Jameson, I know something about you. What you are now doing is you are surpassing where your parents are stuck. Because your mom has her specific mental issue, your dad has his specific mental issue. And the symptom of that is that they vacillate between two thoughts. They can't have two opposing feelings at the same time. Every single healthy, mature adult continuously carries within them opposing feelings: love and hate, happiness, sadness, fear, and optimism. This is the yin and yang. What you're doing now by having all of your, what you're calling schizophrenic feelings, is you are now beginning to individuate. This is phenomenal. So the work that you're doing, I believe you're seeing a therapist, you're working directly with me, you're doing the 90-day challenge, and you are, I think you're in a 12-step group as well. All of those things are designed to help you individuate. So now you will be able to know the difference between your negative feelings and somebody else's. Now you will be able to know the difference between somebody's agenda on you and what you want. Now, when somebody wants something from you, you will be able to go, oh, that's what they want, but that's not healthy for me. Let me share with you. I've shared it on my other channel. I'll share it with you guys here. There was somebody that around here that whom I consider to be a friend. This was somebody that wanted a deeper connection with me than I was interested in. And so this came to light and we discussed it, and I said, I'm not interested in that. And that person still wanted to be my friend, which is great. But I carried this feeling that it's my job to go, be their partner. It's my job to go take care of them. It's my job to make them happy. All of those things were stimulated within me based on my childhood unresolved unconscious issues. But I realized that I really didn't want that, and I didn't want to take on what it would mean to have that person be, somebody intimate. It would just be too much responsibility. They got too much stuff. I don't want that in my life. I saw this person walking around by themselves in town here. They didn't see me, but I saw them. And I immediately was filled with these feelings first of pity, like I needed to go save them. And then I became aware of this feeling that it was my job. I was the one that needed to save them. If I don't do it, they will be miserable. And then I was filled with rage and judgment. And I started judging that person. And I watched all of these feelings come up. And it took a lot of effort for me not to go chase them down and say, okay, all right, let's do what you want. I'll take on your life and help you do this and help you do that. It took everything in me to go, no, that's not my job. That's just going to get in the way of me following my Orlog. But I was aware that was still one little unresolved thing of me not knowing the difference between where I end and they begin. And what you're talking about here, Jameson, is that you now are able to have and be conscious of your opposing feelings. And the more that you do that, the more you will be able to individuate. You will be able to have your feelings and let other people have their feelings. I wanted to go into the whole thing, but the guy who ended up leaving, the projection in his judgment of me was like, I told me everything I needed to know. The bottom line was the reason why the guy left was because he can't tolerate having thoughts and opinions that go against his family and his friends. And he presents himself as somebody who, I'm beyond duality. I don't have any opinions politically about anything, and I'm beyond it all. And he's furious at me because I have one. And so his agenda was he wanted me to stop, not have a feeling. And I know exactly what it is. I can see it. He's having Thanksgiving dinner with his family, and his father's on one side and his mother's on the other, and his father's Republican and his mother's Democrat, and they're fighting at the dinner table over politics, and he can't tolerate that. And so in order to survive, he took on this false persona of, I don't have any political opinions, I'm above all that. And he feels such self-hatred for having an opinion, for wanting to take a side. In his family, he wasn't allowed to have an opinion or take a side, but he would have been shamed out of it. And so he's now shaming me, even though he says he agrees with most of my opinions. So he's so incapable of watching me have an opinion that he might share. It brings up his self-directed negativity, which is him trying to squash his feelings so that he will be accepted by his parents. Now that's my analysis of him. I'm pretty sure most of that is accurate. It might be 100% accurate, it might be 70% accurate, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. But that's his unconscious agenda, is that he tells himself all the time, he beats it into himself, he shames himself into saying, you're not allowed to have an opinion about this. You have to not have an opinion, and then in order to justify that, he rises above it, and he's above it all. I have no opinions. I am above all of that. You now, Jameson, are giving yourself the ability to have a specific opinion, and you're being able to tolerate the positive and the negative within you, which means that when somebody has a different opinion than yours, you will be able to have a feeling about it like, I really hate what that guy believes in. And you'll be able to then say, but that's all right, he can have it. Instead of either attacking him and trying to change his feeling, or trying to kill the feeling within yourself so that they will accept you. You'll be able to see them for who they are, accept them exactly for who they are, have all of your thoughts and feelings about it, and your identity doesn't have to change or morph in order to make it work. Like what I was wanting to do. I wanted to change myself in order to, save that person, because that's what I was taught to do as a kid. And it was really amazing for me to go, wow, it's taking everything in me not to go rush over there and, buy a wedding ring for that person that I don't like and don't want to be with right now. All right. Jameson question, would it be repeating my habit to remind myself of soul desire wants as a means of leaning towards constructive action? I want to smoke, but I want to sing, be an athletic musician. Well, okay, it's again, too much thinking. I honestly don't know what that question is telling you. Make it simple. I do it every day. What do I want? I can tell you exactly today what I want. My plan is, I know exactly where I'm going to live. There's a national park about 20 minutes up the road from me. Perfect waves. It's very popular, but there's rainforest that looks like the Amazon, and there's nature trails. And then there's this open expanse of wilderness on the other side of the river that just goes on, and empty waves. You have to take a 4-wheel drive to go over a ferry, and then you can drive for miles on a beach, and there's just empty waves. Now I know where I'm going to live. I know what I want. I'm going to hopefully I'll find a beautiful, sexy surfer hippie chick that wants to spend the rest of our lives surfing together. And I'm going to camp in the forest, and I'm going to hike in that forest, and I'm going to teach, and I'm going to have seminars, and I'm going to teach people all the stuff I'm teaching you, but I'm going to teach you in person once the lockdown is over and you guys can fly over and stay in a national park, and we'll do the Taoist stuff, and we'll do the Hul breath, and we'll be out in the middle of the rainforest and walk in the rainforest. That's my plan. I see it more clearly than ever. I've seen it. I can see it. I know how I'm going to do it. I've got my plan. I know how long it's going to take. It's a wonderful feeling. That came as a result of me asking myself every day, what is it that I want? What is it that I want? And then finally, when I get there, my body will tell me, this is what you want. My body always knows. Because I have moon in the first house, my emotions and my physical body are always in tune like that. What else? Zach Johnson, why are you on my channel? I mean, Zach Johnson, the basis of what I'm teaching is not to be a victim. So why are you proud of your victimhood? Why do you keep bragging about your victimhood? You say, I hate unconscious emotions. You can't hate your emotions. That's exactly the opposite of what we're talking about. In order to fix this, to be this, you can't hate yourself. That's when you hate your own emotions, you are driving them into your unconscious. You're trying to beat yourself up. Hating your emotions is the same as, tying yourself up and beating yourself with a lead pipe. You're trying to beat the emotions out of yourself. That's why you're angry with other people. You're angry with other people because you're beating yourself up. I blame 5G towers. I mean, again, what are you doing on my channel? You know that that's nonsense, that I believe that's nonsense. Why are you still here? There must be something that you want from my channel. And you're not listening to what I say, which is drop the victim mentality. Now, truth is that that's an honest feeling, so I can't judge you for your feeling. It's frustrating to me because I see your name and I see you on my channel a lot, and I want the best for you, and I want you to be happy, and it makes me think you're not doing the work, and that frustrates me. Because people that don't do the work end up here and here. If you want to change this, you got to do the work. So maybe you're doing the work, maybe you're not. God Emperor asks, can 5G towers do that? No, they can't. All right, so Zach Johnson, don't bring your conspiracy theory nonsense onto my channel. God Emperor, question, what if my destiny is to become God Emperor? It's not. I've always had recurring images of ruling the galaxy wearing a black trench coat. That is your unconscious desire. Your unconscious fantasy actually comes from the exact opposite, God Emperor. Your actual emotional experience is that you feel small and afraid and vulnerable, and you feel everybody's doing it to you. That's why you want to talk about how the left is evil and how women are evil. It's because you feel impotent and you feel as if you don't have any power. So in order to overcome that, you have a narcissistic fantasy, which is you're not just happy. Look, am I God Emperor? No. Do I ever talk about ruling everybody? No. I talk about having control over my matrix. And as long as I have control over my matrix, I get to have what I just described, which I will have. And now I know that it exists. Again, the great thing about staying in your soul desire is that eventually you see that right in front of you. I'm just 20 minutes up the road. I've been avoiding it for 2 years, and now I know why. It was my resistance to my highest happiness. Your greatest happiness is right in front of you, but you can't see it. Victim mentality will blind you from seeing what's right in front of you. Being God Emperor, controlling people will keep you separate from them. And what you want is you don't want to be separate. You want to be loved and you want to be accepted. But because you don't think you deserve that, you're then going to violently control everybody as a God Emperor. So no, that is definitely not your destiny. I don't ever tell people usually what their destiny is or isn't, but in your case, it's very clear. This is your unconscious, narcissistic way of avoiding feeling insecure and alone and unloved. So I believe you have a therapist. If you don't, you need one. Go talk to your therapist about why is it that I feel the need to control everything? Why is it that I fantasize about ruling the universe and controlling everybody? And why is it that I hate Democrats? And why is it I fear women? Talk to your therapist about it. What else? Jedi Black Knight. All right, that's not a question. What else? Unstoppable force. Can you choose your body after death? Why are you talking about after death? Why aren't you talking about choosing your body now? I'm not here to tell you what to do after you die. I'm here to help you have everything you want now. If you don't want everything in this life, find another channel. I can't help you with that. I mean, even if I could, I wouldn't. That's different. If you want to be able to control your body in the next life, you have to be able to control your body in this life. I talked about that 81-year-old guy. He's controlling his body in this life. He looks like a really fit 50-year-old guy. And he's 81. He took control of this life. If you control this life, what's going to happen when you get in the next one? You'll know how to control things in that life. If you aren't able to control things in this life, what's going to happen in the next one? You won't be able to control things in the next one either. You're going to have to learn. That's why people keep reincarnating, because your soul wants to figure this out. So if you want to, if you don't want to keep reincarnating, stop thinking about things that are outside of your control. You have a measure of control over this life. Learn what it is you can and cannot control in this three-dimensional reality, and the next one will be a breeze. Right? If you want to get a doctorate in something, you're going to have to go through the undergraduate. You're going to have to learn how to study and take tests and research and figure things out. But if you don't know how to do that and you try and get a doctorate, you're not going to get anywhere, because you're going to be all on your own. You get a PhD, you're all on your own. You have to do your own study, you have to do your own research, and then you have to bring it back and prove it to people who are established in your field. That's how you get a doctorate. You come with a thesis, and your thesis is you've busted your ass, you've done the research, you can prove it, and then they can look at it, and you have to prove to them that what you've said is true or false. And if you do a good job, you get a PhD. If you want to achieve enlightenment, that's the PhD of being a human being. And stop complaining, stop whining and complaining and blaming other people, etc., etc. Unstoppable force. So worry about this life. The next one will figure itself out. Dream crusher, honest feeling. I feel like you should find Jesus. That's not an honest feeling. There's nothing in that is an honest feeling. You don't feel like I should find Jesus. You want me to find Jesus. You think I should. That's your projection. Dream crusher, what the hell are you doing here? Have you watched any of my videos? I mean, I've got no shortage of videos about Jesus. I have one that says, why is Jesus such an unconscious asshole? So what are you doing here? If you keep giving me these kinds of things, I'm just gonna stop paying attention to you. I have nothing against you. You want to be a Christian, go ahead, but that's not what we do here. So you got to think long and hard about whether or not you belong on this channel, because that's just so far from what we do. What else? Oh God, a racist. What else? You guys talking to each other. You guys want to do that on your own time? That's fine. I don't want to read it. What else? What else? What else? All right, here we go. Dream crusher, you got to learn to shut your mouth and listen. You're wasting everybody's time here. Please do that somewhere else. So I'm going to put you in a timeout. Zach Johnson, I don't know who you're laughing at. Still looking for the questions, guys. Unstoppable force. Now he has a question. My rising sign is Scorpio and my moon is Gemini in the 8th house. Is my karma bad? I'm not going to answer your question. If you want a reading, you can go to astrology. And by the way, why do you think somebody should find Jesus if you're asking astrology questions? Do you not understand that astrology and Christianity don't mix? You don't even, it's hard to respect you. You don't even understand your own religion that you're trying to shove down my throat. Go to astrology.thunderwizard.com if you want a reading. I'm not going to do a reading for you here. 777 says, I use cannabis every day. It's actually brought me here. I don't know what that means. You smoke weed and your weed brought you here? Well, then your weed is trying to get you to the next level. You say, made me more self-aware than anything. I believe you. But I'll tell you what that tells me. You're not going to like it. It means that you are really unaware. That you're so unconscious, that you're fighting so hard against your unconscious emotions that you need weed to cut you off from yourself so you can at least feel like you're breathing. What's interesting is that, when I was in high school, I smoked a lot of weed. And I had the same experience. It liberated me. It gave me bliss. But I was also in hell. My life, my growing up was hell. So it gave me this feeling of getting this peaceful spiritual place. But all it really did is it just cut me off from all of my intolerable feelings. Later on, when I was in my adulthood, when I was struggling with what turned out to be unconscious rage, which was I had tendonitis. I had really bad tendonitis. Somebody talked me into, oh, did you know that cannabis will relieve that? And I really resisted it, and I said, okay. And I tried it, and it was worse. It made my tendonitis worse. I was in more pain than I was before. That's because I'd spent decades doing meditation and spirit fighting, and I was, I knew the difference between actual energy, and this actually was violence. I was doing violence. I could feel the cannabis shoving my feelings down into my physical body. So 777, I'm not judging you, but are you ready to go to the next level? Watch my video about marijuana. Learn how to search within my channel. I have a video about marijuana, and you'll find out why THC actually does the opposite of everything you're thinking it's doing. You're welcome to the channel, but if you want to become even more aware, in my experience, you're going to have to drop the THC. What else? Orion is not, it's not a question. All right. So if you have a question, ask the question. This is why I do that, because then I don't want to do this. I'm having to scroll through everything. Well, we're talking about getting an astrology reading. If you want, you can go to vincent.thunderwizard.com. He's one of my astrology apprentices. He can give you a reading. How much that's costing these days, I don't know what you're talking about there. Let's see what else. Jameson Son, honest feeling. Being new to having all of my feelings completely is disorienting. That's right. That's why people try and get out of them. Whenever somebody has a dream that they're drowning, it means that their feelings are overwhelming them. And this is why people, smoke weed, drink, addictions, why we have mental disorders, why we have psychoses and neuroses, is because emotions can be very overwhelming. So the true Dr. Manhattan is somebody who is able to have all of their feelings and not be overwhelmed by them. This is individuation. It's the whole point of individuation. Being new to having all my feelings completely is disorienting. With the destructive feeling, wants or struggles, listens, accepted and loved, and celebrating me, judging way less. Thank you. You're welcome. What else? All right, so 777, you haven't figured out how this works. I really don't. I don't want to hear your constant mind farts. If you have a question, ask me. Otherwise, I know that that's what they do on other channels. We don't do that here. So I'm going to put you in a timeout, because it's, every time you do that and I hear your unconscious garbage, it makes me want to go after you. So since you're new to the channel, I don't want to eviscerate you and cut your nuts off and stuff them in your mouth. So I'm going to silence you for now. If you can learn how to ask a question, I'll be happy to answer it. What else? Creative Virgo question, what is the name in Vedic astrology to learn the time of birth? What do you mean, what is the name to learn the time of birth? I don't know what you're asking me. If you know your birth, you know it. If you don't know your birth time, then you can get a rectification. So if you want to go get a birth rectification reading, you can do that. That's where I don't do it. You find a Vedic astrologer who will ask you a ton of questions, and they'll be able to, based on all of the questions that they ask, they'll be able to narrow down your time of birth, and then you can get an accurate rune astrology reading. What else? Holy crap, it's John Cena. Question, I honestly have this unknown burning hate toward deities of all kind. I appreciate the question. So before we go any further, that's how to have a feeling. Those of, somebody who said, honest feeling, I think you should find Jesus. It's not a feeling. A feeling is this, and it's a feeling that you wouldn't normally be able to tell somebody like me, who's a polytheist, who loves the deities. You certainly wouldn't be able to go to your average Christian and say, I have a burning hatred for Jesus. I just think he's an unconscious asshole. You won't get very far in church if you do that. You'll be shamed out of that feeling really quick. I'm not going to shame you for having any feelings of any kind, as long as you own them and you're owning them. So that's great. You say, I no longer want to run away from it, but understand it. Any insight? Well, I would have to ask you a bunch of questions. On one hand, I don't care. You don't need to believe in any deities at all. I'm okay with that. You won't hurt my feelings. There's plenty of agnostics out there that function quite well in life. Atheists as well. Just because somebody thinks my religion is ridiculous doesn't hurt me. Nor does it make me need to change their experience. But my insights, obviously you have a problem with authority figures because the gods represent authority figures. So without knowing anything, I would say that you're projecting onto the gods your hatred towards your parents. The idea that they had all the power over you, this is a misunderstanding about what gods are anyway. Gods don't do that. But it's understandable if people do think that. So, do you have a therapist? Do you have a counselor? I mean, you need to do some digging. So if you guys want what I have, it's a good idea to look into doing what I do. I've got a therapist who's also a spiritual teacher as well. I have a group of people that I go to, and we talk together, and we listen to each other, and there's a mediator, and a therapist who runs that, and we reveal each other's unconscious mind to each other. Because the thing is, you don't see your unconscious mind, but everybody else does. They don't use this phrase anymore. But a good stereotypical example of it would be what we used to call latent homosexuality. You never hear people use that. But back in the 60s and 70s, of course, it wasn't cool. It wasn't okay to be homosexual. In fact, you got beat up or put in jail or killed or, it was bad. And so in order to survive, people would deny it. They would deny it to themselves. And so they would act or do things that showed latent or unconscious homosexuality. And everybody else could see it. But they themselves couldn't see it because they weren't willing to look at that within themselves. But everybody else could see it in them. Everybody can see your unconscious. Everybody can see my unconscious. Everybody can see it. I don't try and hide my unconscious. I don't try and hide my flaws. And and if I'm made aware of my flaws, I will admit them. I just recently made a video completely reversing my very emotionally driven stance on the origin of the Indo-European people and language. And I don't feel any shame about that because I'm more interested in the truth than anything. So when I saw, nope, I was wrong, this is the truth, I was happy to change my opinion on that. But if somebody is unwilling to change, then it becomes unconscious or latent. But everybody can see it. So I don't know exactly how to help you. I'd have to, you'd have to be an apprentice for me to know how to go beyond that. So. And if somebody wants to become an apprentice, you can go to thunderwizard.com and click around and find out how to work with me one-on-one on a regular basis. If you wanted just a one-time session with me, anybody, you can go to career.thunderwizard.com, scroll to the bottom, and purchase a session. career.thunderwizard.com. Ed the Wave question. I've been doing my daily mantras to Mercury, my Dharma Devata, but I also have Rahu as my Ishta Devata. Which is better? There is no better. I don't know why you're asking which one is better. They serve different functions. There isn't a better. Your Dharma Devata is the planet that wants to help you achieve this. Your Ishta Devata wants you to understand this. So the Dharma Devata, your Dharma is your highest expression of your true destiny, your Dr. Manhattan, whatever your Dr. Manhattan is, achieving your highest perfection. That is your Dharma. You have to overcome your karma to achieve your Dharma. In order to overcome your karma, you have to become conscious of it. This is the challenge. We've come here for two reasons. The first one is your soul wants to experience the thing that gives it the greatest joy. For me, my soul desire, which may change in the future, but we're still on the same path, as you can see. I am going to live I'm going to live in that that national park. There's a community there. You know, there's a city there. It's a very popular tourist destination. I'm going to have a house there. I'm going to have a house in walking distance to the forest trails and to that surfing beach. And I'm going to do all the things. I can see it clearly. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it or die. I'm going to put everything I have to make that happen. If I have to become a billionaire to do it, I will figure out a way to get $1 billion. Whatever the hell it takes, I will die before I stop making that happen. So that's the first thing that you have to do, is to make your soul happy. Now, I'm lucky. I don't have anybody physically in my life to stop me from doing anything that I want. I have all the people in my head. I still have all of the programming. And of course, I've worked through a lot of it, but there's still programming that I have to keep facing. You know, the abuse from my brother, from my parents, from, you know, society. I still have to, all those things telling me who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do, what I can and can't do. Those voices are still inside of me. And I continue to become more and more conscious of them. And then I continue to do the opposite of that, which sometimes is very frightening and painful, which ends up giving me physical pain sometimes. So don't get me wrong. You know, if you know what your soul desire is, it doesn't mean that you have a smooth path. Depending on how much karma and programming you have, you will go through pain, anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, depression. You'll have all kinds of responses to you actively going after your soul desire. So the second thing is, the first thing is your soul desire. The second thing is the karma. You have to learn the lessons and overcome them. These are the only reasons that you're here. Everything is a result of these two things. Everything in your life is the result of your soul fighting with your survival mechanism, which is your karma. These two things fight with each other, and your life is the painting of the interaction between the two. The goal is to reduce the karma and increase the dharma. So there isn't a better one. Your Ishta Devata shows you your best friend. And the great thing is you can worship your Dharma Devata while talking to your Ishta Devata. So did I not teach you how to do that? I'm sure I did. When you get a reading from me or from one of my apprentices at astrology.thunderwizard.com, they're going to tell you who your Ishta and your Dharma Devatas are. If you don't know what that means, your Ishta Devata is the planet that is chosen, which means that it has chosen you. So my Ishta Devata is Venus. The specific deity based on my chart whom I can worship is Indrani, the wife of Indra, based on her name and my chart. So if I wanted to talk to Venus directly, I can call Indrani. Mother Indrani, help me find a parking space. I'm really lusting after that girl. That guy really pisses me off. I talk to her like she's my best friend. And she helps me get through my conscious day. The Dharma Devata for me is moon, which means my mind, my emotions. So the Indumata would be one. The full moon mother. I could worship her as my Dharma Devata. If I worship my Dharma Devata, I will become conscious of all of my unconscious issues, and I will be guided more clearly. Literally, the moon will shine down on the path that I need to take, the actions that I need to take to live my highest Dr. Manhattan. So you don't have to pick between the two, Ed the Wave. Why don't you understand that? I'm sure I told you that. It's frustrating to me that you don't know that. But your Ishta Devata is, your Rahu the trickster. You talk to the trickster. You talk to him. Rahu, I need help with this. I need help with that. This guy's really pissing me off. And Rahu will say, well, here's what's going on. And he'll reveal to you why you're being deceived by the world or whatever it is. And your Dharma Devata, when you worship the Dharma Devata with a mantra and you face a specific direction and you know what the offering is, then what ends up happening is that your life starts to then turn around and you start following the path. It feels as though synchronicity is happening. It feels as though God is giving you what you want. But what's really happening is that you are becoming conscious of things that unconsciously are driving the scene. And you start to learn how to take control and learn how to follow your true path. But you first have to die. God, Emperor, has to die to this narcissism he has of thinking he needs to rule the universe. That's his unconscious. He's unconscious of how afraid he is. So when he becomes conscious of that and works through that, if he worships his Dharma Devata, he'll then be able to find out, oh, I really don't want to rule the world. I actually want to be a part of society, and I want people to love me, and I want to love them. He'll learn how to then make his life out of, not trying to control everything and everybody, as an example. Orion, that's not an honest question. How about being a third positionist? How about it? What is it that you want to ask with that question? That's an obvious. The United States is, in the minority where there's only 2 political parties. A lot of countries have multiple political parties. Smoke or be a musician? What's more important? I mean, if you're going to ask a question, do me a favor, ask a question, put the effort into, writing a question, and if that's an honest question, ask it. But it doesn't sound honest. It sounds like you're just kind of wasting your time here. If you have an honest question, put some effort into it, and I will actually address it. But I gotta have the feeling that you're serious about it first. All right. I don't care, Antonio. You are totally. I support you having your life. I seriously don't care though. I do not support some of the positions that you mentioned in your videos, but I listen to you for your experience and knowledge in shamanism. I think is not incompatible. Good. I don't care. I don't care what you think or don't think of me. I don't care why you're here. I only care if you do the work. Whatever gets you guys through the door, great. And I'm glad that people don't take me as a guru and listen to everything I say. I mean, you're definitely wrong when it comes to your political positions, especially if you're a Trump supporter. You're absolutely wrong, and you're deeply motivated by your unconscious issues. But so is everybody. Everybody has an unconscious, so that's okay. I only care if you do the work. If you do the work, if you do listening to my opinion means nothing, Antonio. It's about as helpful as a flowery smelling fart. It means nothing. My thoughts, my insights mean nothing. That was another thing the guy who left said. He said, I come because you have some good insights. So fucking what? If my insights don't motivate you to take different actions, they're meaningless. I'm far more interested in you guys taking the actions, and the only actions that I can put into practical use are these. Do the spirit fighting, do the meditations, do the 90-day challenge. Go to courses.thunderwizard.com, do the free meditations, do the work, do the whole breath. If you're new to the channel, this is the most important thing that you can be doing at the beginning is the whole breath. It's free. Go look for it anywhere. You'll find it. Do that for an hour a day. Stop watching my videos and do that for an hour a day. That's more important to me than anything else. I don't care about the rest of it. All of the intellectualizations, all of the me explaining all of this stuff means nothing if you aren't motivated to take an action to change your life for the better. What else? Vidar Jotunsen, question. Maybe I'm confused, but I thought you taught that Rahu Ketu were the indicators of Dharma and Karma. And here you're saying the moon is the indicator of karma. Can you explain these again for me? So yeah, now you get to move past beyond your dualist understanding of astrology. They're both true. Rahu indicates the dharmic force of your the karmic force of your unfulfilled desires. So we have to understand how life works. Those of you who think you need to escape the matrix, you frightened children, are you ready to grow up and not be afraid? Are you ready to love being on this planet? I love being on this planet. There's a lot of stuff I don't like, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that's very challenging about my life that I don't wish on anybody. Having said that, when I think about it, I'm thinking about it now, when I think about my new favorite surf spot, I'm going to go surfing on Tuesday. The waves are going to be big. And my biggest problem is, which surfboard do I take? It's my biggest problem right now. But I'm already thinking about the view. I'm going to be sitting there in that beautiful ocean. I'm going to be surrounded by other people who are there to have fun. And to my right will be this mountain that comes out of the ocean that's covered with rainforest, and I'm going to be seeing flocks of different birds. I'm going to probably see some, what are those things called? One like that, cockatoos and things like that. And also in between the waves, I'm going to be looking up at the forest. It just makes, just thinking about it, I'm getting chills. I'm so happy about it. But that's a result of unresolved desires from previous lives. So, surfing has only been around not for very long, so it's very unlikely that 1,000 years ago I was a surfer. But whatever it is that my desires want, they've manifested in this soul desire to surf waves. One of the great things I like about that 81-year-old guy is because I see how in shape he is, and I can tell at his level of fitness, he could surf. Because I want to know how long can I keep surfing? I don't want to get so old that I can't surf anymore. I remember hearing a guy talk about he had to stop surfing and he was old. And I said, I'd blow my brains out. I couldn't live like that. So either one of two things are going to happen. I'm either going to get that out of my system and I'll finally go, yeah, I've done all the surfing I need to do. Or I'll die surfing, something like that. But what brought me here was that my soul wanted to surf. I started surfing when I was 10. It's the one thing that has been consistent off and on throughout my life. Everything else has changed. That's the one thing that hasn't changed. And so Rahu represents your desires that need to be fulfilled in this life. And if you don't fulfill them, Rahu will take you down a path of misery. If I were to deny my desire to surf, I might end up a drug addict. See what I mean? Because Rahu is drug addiction. Rahu would come in and say, in order to push the feelings down, I'd have to find some drug. And he would say, no, drugs are the way to go. So those of you who smoke weed, Rahu is working with you, but you've been deceived by him. You think you're thinking all these deep things and I'm spiritual, and Rahu's laughing his ass off you. Loki is laughing at you. But he cares about you when you wake up and you realize, man, this is just destroying my sex drive and it's making me sick and I'm totally angry and I'm disconnected from my feelings and I cough all the... Then Rahu says, okay, you ready to stop? You ready to find out what you really want to do? Let's give you some real spirituality now. Ketu represents your Dharma, in that Ketu represents what takes you out of this world. So Ketu represents achieving your awareness. And when Ketu finally fulfills his purpose, you will not reincarnate again. Rahu and Ketu are both negative planets because they destroy things. Rahu destroys things because you get so wrapped up in your selfish desires that you become destructive about it. That same guy I talked about who's my hero, the 81-year-old guy, he ends up always injuring himself because he works out too hard. That's his Rahu. He's indulging. He doesn't know when to stop. That's his Rahu, his addiction. Your Ketu is going to destroy. Wherever Ketu is placed, he's destroying it. If Ketu is conjunct Venus, it means you'll never find love. And the lesson of that is to realize that you don't need it. You are everything. The negative is if you keep trying to go after love, that you will be miserable. There's a lot of people with major psychological issues because their Rahu and their Ketu there's people with borderline personality disorder, for instance. Not everyone, but I've met one and looked at her chart, and she had Rahu and Ketu conjunct, and she could never find love. Couldn't even love her own child. She had a child, and she had to stop mothering the child because she just couldn't love it. She had to give it up to the grandmothers and the father because she just couldn't tolerate being around her own child, and it was tearing her up. It's because her lesson in this life was to learn to be self-empowered within herself. As long as she was trying to fit in and be like everybody else, it was killing her and made her crazy. So Ketu destroys whatever he's connected to. So Vidar, I understand that, but you have to think greater. The moon represents your emotions and your mind. What you think about based on your feelings, what you're really thinking about. I'm thinking about that place. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm talking to you and I keep flashing in my mind of surfing those waves in that amazing forest. And all the nature, it makes me want to cry. It's so beautiful. I can't stop thinking about it. My emotions and my mind are drawn to that. So what your mind is drawn to will show you what you can't avoid, the challenges you can't avoid in this life. What else? Orion question. What is the symbolic meaning of Freya being intimate with the four dwarves for Brisingamen? In order to answer that question, I'd have to be up and studied on that myth, and I haven't read that myth in years, so I'm not gonna guess. Dakota Spruill question: have you ever had trouble forgiving? Of course. Who hasn't? Is it necessary to forgive to advance spiritually? There's a difference between forgiving and denying. You can't forgive somebody until you fully accept and embrace the level of hostility that you have towards them. In the 12 steps, anybody familiar with the 12 steps, there's the fourth step. The fourth step, it says, takes a thorough and fearless moral inventory of yourself. And that's not at all what it means. People who don't actually know what that means, they end up doing the wrong thing. An inventory is probably the best way to forgive. And what you do is you write 3 columns. You can look it up. You can go online. If anybody wants to, if you want to forgive somebody, this is what you do. You go online and you type in fourth step 3 columns. Go type that in. You'll find worksheets that'll give you these 3 columns that you can work on. In one, first you write who you're angry at. Whatever. I'm angry at my ex-girlfriend. I'm angry at Lana. I don't know anybody named Lana. I'm angry at Lana. Then you write down why. In that first column, you write down what she did. She wouldn't have sex with me. So I'm angry at her because she wouldn't have sex with me. The other thing is you can't judge your feelings. So right there, if somebody could get judgmental and go, oh my God, she doesn't have to have sex with you. She's a woman. You have to respect that. Now, all of those things are true. It doesn't change the fact that I have that feeling. I mean, I don't. I don't. There isn't anybody I'm angry at because they didn't have sex with me. But if that was the case, if I met some woman and took her out and wanted to have sex with her and she didn't want to have sex, and I was angry about it, I would have to be honest. So when I hear you ask the question, is it necessary to forgive? It tells me that you're judging yourself for being angry. A lot of people forgive because they don't want to be unspiritual and or they can't tolerate the rage. That's not forgiveness. That's going into denial. You're shoving your feelings down. So the first thing you have to do is be accepting of your rage and not judge why you're angry. What if somebody, for instance, was a pedophile and was angry because they couldn't, have something with an underage child? Well, I would judge the fuck out of that person because I'm not a pedophile, but I don't know what that feels like. But they would have to accept that I have this feeling and it's inappropriate. I can't act on it. And then they would realize it's ridiculous of me to be angry at that underage child because that child isn't capable of even being sexual. Forget the fact that I would be damaging them beyond repair. But it doesn't change their feeling. It doesn't change that they have the desire and that they're angry that they've been rejected. So you can't judge your feelings. If you are asking me, is it necessary to forgive? It means that you're probably really attached to the idea of, whatever you're angry about. You probably feel righteously indignant, and you should allow yourself to have those feelings. So in the first column, you write down who you're mad at, and then you write down why, and you don't judge it. I'm mad at Lana. She didn't have sex with me. In the third column, you look at what does it affect. So there's a list of things in it like fear, insecurity, money, sexual relations, relationships. You look at all the things that are threatened in your life because that person either did something you didn't want or didn't do something that you wanted. So if I were looking at that, I'm mad at Lana because she didn't have sex with me. It affects my self-esteem because I obviously want to feel good about myself. I want to feel attractive. She wasn't attracted to me. That hurts my self-esteem. That's going to make me angry. It affects my sex life. Sex is a strong instinct. You can't talk yourself out of your instincts. And it's an instinct that has to do with the survival of the species, which means you think your survival depends on this person having sex with you. The overwhelming drive to have sex. It feels like you're going to die if you don't get to have sex with that person. So it's going to make you angry because my self-esteem, my sex relations, my personal relationships. What are people going to think if they find out that I hit on her and she goes and tells my friends, or she tells other women that I hit on her and that she rejected me and they laugh about me? That's going to affect my personal relationships. So you look at all of the instincts, which then become character defects. So the character defect would be is if instead of acknowledging that, yes, I want women, I want all women to think that I'm attractive and I want them all to be attracted to me, and that's an okay feeling and that's a normal thing, but it's not realistic. Not every woman is going to be attracted to me. It's just the way it is. But it's okay that I want that. If you don't accept that you want it, then it's going to turn into an ego thing. And then you're going to start, then I would have to go and get liposuction, and I would go and I'm starting to see, I'm starting to lose, I'm starting to get a little turkey neck here. I would go and get my then you get a facelift, and next thing I know, I've had, liposuction, and I've got a facelift, and then I really look like a freak. And then anybody that looks at me and laughs, I'm really going to hate them. So I'd have all this pride about how I looked. And so the normal instinct of self-preservation, if you don't acknowledge it, can turn into a character defect of pride. So then when you look at after the third column, there's a fourth column, which is my part. So my part, if I followed through with that, I hit on Lana, she rejected me, and I became resentful and angry at her for that. And I felt justified about it. If I didn't do the work, I could then become a MGTOW, because my mom didn't give me the love that I wanted, and therefore, when this woman rejected me, then all of the feelings I had when I was 4 years old, when mommy wouldn't pick me up and hug me, which is a real thing. Then I'm gonna write the manifesto, the red pill manifesto, about how everything is skewed against the male, and even in courts, and women just want you for your sperm and your money, and all that nonsense, that red pill MGTOW nonsense. Whenever somebody says they're a MGTOW, I already know mommy didn't pick you up when you were little. I already know it. It's so obvious. So is it necessary to forgive to advance spiritually? Yes, but it's not this, you're not doing this spiritual thing of, I forgive you. How many people listening to me feel this? I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. Well, that's not forgiveness. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't forgive, if that's your motivation. If your motivation to forgive is so that you aren't looking like you're unspiritual, then stop wasting your time. Just stop bullshitting. You might as well just go ahead and be angry. At least the MGTOWs know what they're angry about. At least you know where they're coming from. At least they're willing to admit that they're angry. Now, we look underneath it, they're little tiny little boys that whose mommy doesn't love them, and that's very sad and pathetic and all of that. And I have a lot of pity for them. I have a lot of disdain for these adults that are actually whiny little crying little baby boys. But I wouldn't judge them if they actually wept and said, I wish mommy loved me and I wish that girl loved me. And I'm going to learn how to love myself, and I'm going to learn how to make my life better and make myself more attractive to people. And, then I'd be there with you in your pain and in your tears. As opposed to what I do now, you come around acting like you're tough and you're this red pill and you're just the biggest pussy I've ever seen in my life. Pull up your fucking nutsack and just accept that, if you want to be attractive to women, you might as well actually put some work into being successful and attractive and treat women fairly, right? That's all my judgment. As true as it is, it's all my judgment. But it's really a roundabout way of me saying, why don't you just get honest about the feelings? Just cry. Your mom didn't love you. And that's really sad. That girl that you loved didn't love you back. And that's really, really sad. I feel for you. So if you want to forgive, you're going to have to look at yourself. I dated a woman last year for about 4 or 5 months in 4 months, who, as it turns out, had borderline personality disorder. It was the most toxic experience of my life. And she tore me to shreds. She hurt me so badly. I've never been that badly hurt, not even by the loss of my fiance. Never have I been that deeply hurt by anybody. Just destroyed me. But it's because I lost my fiance, a year and a half earlier, and because there was unresolved mommy issues. And she represented all of that, and I had an opportunity to look at that. And so when I realized that I was trying to have a relationship with somebody that emotionally was at the level of a 2-year-old, literally, that's not a judgment, then it became, wow, what the hell am I doing? This has nothing to do with her. Who is this about? It's about my mom. It's about the loss of my fiance. I hadn't really gotten to the depth of how sad I was and how angry I was that she died on me. She died and left me. That's not a rational thing. Rationally, she died of cancer. It wasn't her fault. But my unconscious didn't know that. I had to become aware how angry I was with her, how hurt I was that she left, how devastating it was. So now when I look back at that woman with borderline personality disorder, who was the most cruel, manipulative, psychotic, just nobody has ever been that fucking horrible to me. When I look back on that, I don't have any anger towards her. I have no resentment. In fact, the only reason I remember her is because I have a channel where I talk about that. And that's only because people keep asking me to talk about it. But I forgot. I did the 4th step on it. And I talked and I did all the work. And when I realized that had nothing to do with her, it was about me, then the resentment left on its own. So asking me, if you have trouble forgiving, it means that you need to do some work. You need a sponsor, you need a therapist, you need somebody to help you walk you through why you want something from somebody that can't give it to you. My dad was an alcoholic. He drank himself to death. I was furious at my dad that he never followed through on his promise to take me to the Virgin Islands to go surfing when I was a kid. That he gave me a car and then took it away and crashed it the next day. That he that he never went to the park and played catch with me. I was furious at him for that. I hated him for all of the things that he did. And I had every reason to feel that way. And anybody would. And no healthy human being wouldn't have similar hurts in some way about that. Except that I was at fault for one thing. And that one thing was I realized he had the right to drink himself to death. That's none of my business. He wants to drink himself to death. That's his life. He can do that, and it's unfair of me to expect that of him. And I say that without denial, because then I allowed myself to have all that pain. So Dakota Sproul, it seems pretty obvious to me that you need some psychological counseling, and I would recommend it. To answer your question, yes, it is necessary to forgive in order to advance spiritually, because spiritual advancement is predicated on your self-awareness. And if you're not aware, which means fully having all of your feelings, all of your rage, all of your fear, all of your sadness, all of your insecurities, if you're not fully aware of all of them, you can't grow beyond them. And trying to be spiritual, everything is love and light, everything is love and light, is just denial as you smoke weed and take, vitamin K or whatever the fuck the new thing is. And you go to Zohar the Magnificent seminars where they tell you, where you listen to some woman supposedly channel some alien entities who tell you really superficial, generalized, common sense things about life. You think that you're hearing it from some other being and that your life is somehow changing. And instead of doing all that shit, which I don't know if you do, be real. And then you'll learn how to forgive. Anybody wants to, go do the fourth step. I recommend everybody do it. What else? God Emperor question. How many minutes should I do the thunder standing pose? There is no should. Do it for as long as you want. Just pick one. Pick 5 minutes. Do 5 minutes a day. You can get up to 10 minutes. Do 10 minutes a day. If I only do that, will it help me have what you have? Yes, it will. God Emperor, you're not me. So stop. You're a perfectionist. How do I know that? You want to be God Emperor for one thing. Instead of just being a person, you want to be God Emperor. I also know something about your psychological issues as well, which that's one of the symptoms, is that, you get into those black and white states of thinking. So it's going to be challenging for you. You're going to have to go through challenges I don't have to go through. So stop trying to be me. Stop trying to have what I have. I did say that. If you want what I have, you got to do what I do. But if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. And what I have is, I am at the highest level of my Dharma that I'm capable of achieving at the moment. There's a lot of stuff I could do differently, and I could always do better. But that's what you should be going after. You should go after wanting to be your highest true self. If you do only the thunder standing pose, will you have everything you need? That I don't know. But stop trying to be me, just be you. The thunder pose, if you stand in it for 5 minutes a day, and you do the meditation and everything else associated with it, you can improve. And that's all that I promise, is that if you do any of this stuff, you can improve to be your best self. But you don't know what your best self is yet. That's okay. You need to be with a therapist on a regular basis, and you need to be, I think, doing some spiritual work and some meditation on a daily basis. Stop trying to be God Emperor. Stop trying to be perfect. Just be a human. Just be flawed and human and just learn and grow. Remember my definition of enlightenment. Enlightenment is not some state of being where there aren't any problems and I have no feelings and I'm with bliss all the time. I have no hate, I have no negative emotions. That doesn't exist. Sorry to tell you, any person who says they have that is lying or deluded or both. The beings that we worship, Odin, Thor, Shiva, Krishna, whatever it is, the beings that we worship who have this perfect enlightenment, the Buddha, these are principles within the universe of perfection, and so we strive after them. My name Mahadeva, people get mad at me for calling myself Mahadeva, which is one of the names of Shiva. It means the great God. And people say you're not allowed to do that. And I said, well, if that's the case, then why did Shiva give the mantra Shivoham, which means I am Shiva? You're supposed to want to identify it. It's the goal. It's my spiritual essence. It's where I'm going. It doesn't mean I've achieved it yet. So I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, let's move on. Film sample CG, honest feeling. I'm doing phase 1 of 90-day challenge and I feel awesome in the morning, and in nighttime practice I feel kind of strange. I don't know how to explain. I also have some resistance where I don't even know what it's about. Good. You don't have to figure it out. This is things are going to come up. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a feeling. It's going to be, if it's a negative feeling, it's going to be resistance of some kind, anger, depression, insecurity, fear, confusion. They're just feelings. When you're about to throw up, you have a feeling, right? I don't feel good. You don't know exactly what it is, and then, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. You puke it up. So when you do the especially the nighttime practice, the reason why the morning practice makes you feel good is because I designed it to make you feel good. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go to thunderwizard.com, click around for Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And there's a morning practice, an afternoon, and an evening practice. The morning practice I specifically designed to make you feel good so that you could power through your day and get what you wanted. The nighttime practice is where you go in and you do you do the antiviral software to your unconscious. And so, yeah, you're going to feel all kinds of things. And like when you're about to throw up, you don't feel good. But you need to throw up. You need to get that bad fish out in order to feel, to be healthy again. So you're going to have some feelings, and you're going to have good feelings and bad feelings. You're going to become aware of both feelings at the same time. You're going to have a good feeling, and then you're going to feel guilty about it. So all kinds of stuff's going to happen. You don't have to explain it. It'll become clear to you if you keep doing the ritual. If you do the ritual every day, eventually you will become conscious of what is unconscious. And as Jung said, if you must become conscious of that which is unconscious, otherwise it will determine your life and you will call it fate. Now you're starting to take more and more control of your fate. What else? God Emperor, question. When I do the thunder standing pose, I feel my heart and the energy flowing through my arms. Is that a question? The rest of the question, is that what happens? Yes. T-Dan, question number 1. In context to what you were saying about the moon being unavoidable karma, what would moon in the 11th house mean? It depends on all kinds of things. If you guys don't have to ask me this. You can go and look it up. You can type in Vedic astrology 11th house and find out what the 11th house is. Type in it's like, let's say your 11th house is in Virgo. You would type in Virgo 11th house and read about what that means. So if the moon is placed in Virgo in the 11th house, then 11th house is, among other things, it's networking and it's gains. So it means that what you work for that gives you success in life. So if you want to make money, this is going to be the aspect of your life that you have to work hard at. Mine is Rahu is in my 11th, which Rahu is the internet. So I have to work my ass off. I have to put up videos freaking every day for my, in order to make money. I just want my videos, I wanted to just put up some videos and put up a website and then go and retire and let people keep watching the videos and buying my products. But it doesn't work like that because my Rahu's there. It means that, the internet, I will get success if I'm continuously putting myself out over the internet, and I'll have to work at it. The 11th house is something you have to work for. So your moon is there. It means that you have unavoidable karma about whatever your 11th house represents. So you have to go figure that out. Question 2, how can I use my ascendant to help me determine and achieve my Dharma? Go study what Scorpio means. That's the thing that you have power over. That's the thing that you have the power to make conscious decisions over. You don't need me to tell you that. You can go figure that out. Creative Virgo 12, honest feeling, maybe. I appreciate the honesty of that maybe it's an honest feeling. I appreciate that. The fact that you suggest and recommend we say, think, feel, I deserve this to have ideal life, that it brings it home. Okay, so you like that. So learn how to put your feelings into words. So for example, when you suggest that we say, think, feel, I deserve, put a feeling to that. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel loved. That makes me feel hopeful. That's an honest feeling. So it is a feeling. You just didn't verbalize the actual feeling. Get to the feeling. But you're going in the right direction, Creative Virgo. Yeah, that's good. Baba Junzo question. Why is it when you plan to take action on your destiny and you wake up the next morning not feeling nearly as motivated than when you decided to take the action? Why are you guys not listening to me? I'm happy to keep telling you, but this is your resistance is showing up in the fact that you didn't hear me to explain this in detail, because I know I have. I know you've been watching me and I've explained it in detail. This is how it works. I was listening to one person, or somebody wrote something about me was frustrated because they were saying, I think about what makes me happy and I get filled with joy. And he says, but I can't keep creating that feeling, and I'm trying and I'm losing it. And I'm like, this isn't the secret. This isn't the channeling of Marvo, the magnificent alien being. That's not what this is. This isn't have a feeling, and if you keep having the feeling, what is that? The law of attraction. This isn't the law of attraction. I've got videos, and everybody should watch my videos about why the law of attraction is toxic. The law of attraction, I'm telling you here, is the ultimate in narcissistic abuse. It doesn't sound like it, does it? It sounds like something wonderful. But all of you listening to me, if you think that the law of attraction is a good, healing, empowering thing, I already know that you grew up in a dysfunctional home. I already know that you grew up shaming yourself for all of your thoughts and your feelings. Because the law of attraction says that what you feel is what you attract. So if you want to be successful, you have to sit on the edge of your bed and bring up money and have a happy feeling about money. And if you have a happy feeling about money, then money will happily come running to you. If you think about money and you feel guilty or sad or angry, then you will scare money off and it'll go away because you have bad feelings about it. I don't want to be in your life because you don't have good thoughts about me. That's what the law of attraction says. But that is an abusive, narcissistic parent. You better wipe that smile off your face. I'll give you smile. You better wipe that frown off your face. I'll give you something to frown about. You better not cry. I will give you something to cry about. I'm going to put you in your room until you're in a good mood. It's an abusive parent who can't tolerate your feelings. The law of attraction says that the universe is a parent that will only love you if you are happy, which is Jehovah. Jehovah says to Moses, he says, those that love me follow all of my commands to the letter. Then he goes on to say, those that do not follow all of my commands to the letter hate me. And if you hate me, I hate you. And if you hate me, then I am going to punish you with this, and I'm going to put boils on you, and I'm going to destroy your children for 7 generations. He's making it very clear. He says, if you don't like me, I don't like you. If you're upset with me, I'm going to be upset with you. If you bow down and worship and only do what I want, then I will love you. In other words, don't have any of your own feelings. Only do what I say, and you're going to do it, and you'll like it. This is the law of attraction. If you have a happy feeling about money, then money will have happy feelings about you, and it will float through the air and it will land on your front doorstep. Hi, I'm money. Here I am for you. You love me, so I love you. And if you have bad feelings, then bad things will happen. That's not how life works. When you become aware of your soul desire, and many people don't know what their soul desire is. When you become aware of your soul desire, you will have an unavoidable feeling of bliss and joy. It might be for a split second. I'm thinking about my place, and I'm filled with bliss thinking about it. So, I mean, I know that's where I belong. I already know that's where I belong because I've been surfing it lately. It's just, that's it. That's home. So when you are able to really find out what it is you truly want, there will be a moment. That would be so awesome. It may only last a second, and then your resistance kicks in. No, you shouldn't do that. No, that's stupid. That's silly. You don't deserve that. It may not be till the next day. You wake up the next day and you're like, what was I thinking? I was going to build what? I was going to build a city for kittens? And oh my God, that's so stupid. You talk yourself out of it. So when you have that epiphany, that awareness of, I'm going to surf that beautiful, perfect place, and I'm going to have a house there, and I'm going to have you can already see her. She's a svelte, athletic surfer, and she rides a longboard, and we surf together, and she knows, and she's going to take me on trips into the forest, and we're going to have a dog and a cat, right? I already see it, and I think it, and I get full of happiness. That's what I'm going to go after. So I'm going to make it happen. Tomorrow, I may think it's stupid, but I have already made the decision. So when you find out what your soul desire is, you then do a ritual to the gods. So you can go directly to any of my rune rituals, like the Fehu ritual. You can do that to, you can do Fehu, whatever it is. You can do the ritual to that thing and put it in all of the 9 directions. I just use the Fehu ritual in the 9 worlds, but you can do the 9 world ritual to anything. But as soon as you figure out what it is, write it down. Write down exactly what it is, and then you do a ritual to it, either right then and there, or the next day, or whatever it is. Like there's a moon eclipse coming soon, and I'm going to do a ritual on the full moon eclipse. And you can guarantee what I do that ritual about is gonna happen. And things are gonna happen as a result of that. Every time I've done the 9 world ritual, it always, something happens. Either I get exactly what I say, or it shakes up things on some level. So you don't sit around trying to keep reliving it. If you can, great. I can keep reliving mine because I've worked through a lot of my stuff, so I can access my soul desire a lot more easily than I could even a year or 10 years ago. You may not be able to you may only have a split second of your soul desire, but once you figure out what it is, write it down and then do a ritual. When you do a ritual to the gods, you are saying to the gods, you are saying to all of the 9 worlds, I am going to have this or I will die. I will take nothing less. And if your ritual is you are going to become a YouTube sensation, you're going to become a ballerina, you have a specific, I'm going to create a secret petting zoo for kittens in Tokyo. Whatever the hell it is that you decide you're going to do, you then tell the gods, I am going to do this or I will die, and this is my oath to the gods. You literally mean that. Then it doesn't matter what feelings come up. Resistance comes up. It's like, I know, but I told the gods I was going to do it or die. I have to do it. I have to do it no matter how painful it is. If you don't have that, then there's a possibility you won't achieve your soul desire. And your Dharma, your destiny, is not set in stone. It doesn't mean you have to achieve it. Your karma will be visited upon you. You cannot avoid that. How you choose to interact with it, that's different. But your karma cannot be avoided. You can avoid your destiny. It'll give you more stuff so that when Rahu brings you back into manifestation, you will have an even stronger desire towards it, but you'll also have a stronger unconscious resistance. Because when you resist, it's like the brain. Our brain works like this. Here's discipline. You want to know why you need to do the 90-day challenge every day, why you need to do your standing postures or whatever it is that you do, your ritual every day, whatever it is that you've committed to do on a daily basis. If you talk to me, I tell you, you need to be doing this every day, whatever it is. The reason why you have to do it every day is because it creates neural pathways. The deeper those neural pathways get burned into your brain, the easier it is for you to do that. That has to do with loving yourself, loving others, this addiction. These are all that. So when you have karma, it means your soul has all of this negative training and programming that's got built into it for perhaps lifetimes. So there's going to be a strong pull to be destructive in those areas. But your soul says, no, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to keep reincarnating until I work through it. Because that's what I want. Not because, and nobody's telling me to do it. That's what I want. I want to do that. So when you do something that's completely opposite, another thing that 12 steps do, which is great, which is they teach you what's called taking contrary action. So if somebody's a heroin addict, and what they want to do is go rob somebody and take the money and buy heroin, you do the exact opposite. Instead of robbing somebody, I'm going to go I'm going to go down to the old folks home, and I'm going to sit there with old people, and I'm going to make soup for the homeless. And instead of stealing money, I'm going to donate my time and my money towards something else. And instead of sticking heroin in my neck, I'm going to go to an NA meeting and I'm going to look for somebody that needs help and I'm going to sponsor them. You do the exact opposite of what everything in you wants to do. And the more that you do that, you start digging and burning in different neural pathways in your brain. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then it becomes a habit. And then it becomes you can't help yourself. I mean, I just got over, I had like the stomach flu for a few days and I stayed out of the gym. And I hated it. I hate, because if I sit there for 2 or 3 days and I don't work out, I start thinking that I'm obese. I start thinking that I'm super fat, and I start feeling to see if I'm losing, even if it's 3 or 4 days. That's because I burnt that into me. That's become a habit. I get all of the endorphins and everything that happens, which makes me feel good, and the pump I get from lifting weights, and of course it helps me in everything else in my life. It helps me in my surfing. So the more that I do that, it becomes hard not to do it. So if you want to have good habits, you've got to start doing them when you don't want to do them, and you do them even if it kills you. Literally, even if it kills you, you do it, and then eventually it takes over. So it changes. If your karma, your resistance is here, and your dharma is here, you start doing the opposite, and this becomes weaker. This becomes stronger. And then pretty soon it becomes easier to do the right thing and it becomes harder to screw up. It would be a lot harder for me to go and do, things that I would still enjoy doing. But it'd be a lot harder for me to do that. It's a lot easier for me when those desires come to do things I know aren't good for me. It's a lot easier for me to get up off my ass and go to the gym. Okay? So when you plan to take action on your destiny and you wake up the next morning not feeling nearly as motivated, why? This is why. You have to accept this. You have to accept that life is a battle. That's why my ancestors called it a battle. You must die in battle to go to Valhalla. There's a reason why they thought that, because it is. If you give up, and I said in some of my recent videos, people give up. All the stuff that's going on politically in the United States, people are giving up on democracy. Democracy is hard work, and democracy is no fun, especially when your guy doesn't win. It's no fun. Especially if you think your guy is the guy that's going to fix it, because everybody, whether it's Republican or Democrat, every election that comes along, each side has said this is the most important election in history. If our guy doesn't win, it's going to be disastrous. And so people get really emotionally attached to their guy winning. And when their guy doesn't win, you don't like it, but you accept it and you move on and you work to make your guy win next time, which is what the Trumpians are giving up on. They are giving up. They're saying we refuse to accept 60 court cases that prove that Trump lost. We refuse to accept that, and I'm only going to believe an election if my guy wins. They're giving up on democracy. Democracy is hard work. If you're not willing to do the hard work, then you deserve to have a fucking dictator. This is just one example of life. If you're a drug addict and you give up and you don't go to meetings and you don't call your sponsor and you don't do the work, you don't do the meditation, in your case, the meditation, the mantra, you're giving up. You're letting your unconscious resistance take over, and then you deserve whatever you get. You're going to be miserable, unhappy, fat, dying of cancer, whatever. That's what you created for yourself. I don't judge you for that. I feel for you, but you did it to yourself. And the good news is you can turn that around. You're sick, dying of cancer. You can turn it around. You can heal from it. I've seen it happen. But you got to start doing the exact opposite. So you wake up the next morning and you don't feel nearly as motivated, but you have written down when you did have bliss, because that bliss, when it happens, if there is a God, that's God's will. The bliss is God telling you that's what you're commanded to do. And God, if we want to talk about God, all God has to do is come and tell you once. Go take the land of Canaan, or whatever it is. He doesn't have to tell you 100 times. He's only supposed to tell you once. You're supposed to listen and obey. Now, it's not God, it's your soul. Your soul gives you bliss. That's it. You might as well treat that as that's it. That's the only message I'm going to get. You've been complaining. If I just knew what I'm supposed to do. Now you know. You had the bliss. I got to go create a kiddie hospital in Tokyo, and I need $1 billion to do it. That's your command. You got to go do it. You don't want to do it now. Who the hell does? Who wants to go try and get $1 billion? And now I hate cats. They crap all over everything. They scratch things. They whine and complain, and they run away when I try and pet them. What was I thinking? I don't want to have a cat petting zoo. What the fuck was that all about? Well, too bad. Your soul told you. It gave you your command. Now you got to go do it. So Baba Junzo, seriously, now you've heard that. I say this with all love and affection. Pull up your nutsack or your panties, whatever you are. Be a big boy or a big girl. You know what it is you want to do. Just go do it. You're not supposed to feel blissful about it anymore. You will eventually. Eventually you'll get to it, and when everything's built, then you'll feel the bliss again. The bliss is telling you what's coming if you do it. But even then, even when you get, when I get what I want, which I'm still getting it, there's going to be bad days and good days. The waves are going to be flat some days. There's probably going to be people problems. There's going to be, the wind is going to be wrong. I won't feel like it. There's going to be good days and bad days. All right, what else? Ryan, Orion, do me a favor, just ask questions. Stop with the mouth diarrhea. I appreciate that. If you want to have a session with me, and I'll listen to you talk about your life. But for here, I want to question. That's what we do here. We come here to learn. This is a classroom. And a classroom is I call on you. If you raise your hand, I'll call on you. Honest feeling. Fem sample CG. Your commitment to your desires motivates me and it gives me strength to do the practices. Good. Feel that. Thank you for sharing that with me. That makes me feel good. But good. That feeling. That's what teachers are for. They show by example. And this is why people put pictures of their guru on their altar. So in that moment, you can isolate that feeling of whatever it was in me, my commitment to my desires. It gives you whatever feeling. You can isolate that feeling, and then when you think of me, if that helps you, you can go, okay, what would Mahadeva do? Then you can think of me and then do what you think I would do. When people, the original idea of putting your guru's picture on your altar, which is about motivating what they represent to you. They should represent the best of what you want. Doesn't mean you're worshiping them. In fact, people, you could have dreams about your guru came and told you something, and that might not even be close to the truth. Your guru was, off, eating Cheetos somewhere and, watching porn. You know what I mean? He or she didn't have to be doing that. It means that your guides, and maybe even more importantly, your unconscious, is motivating you. It could even be, the gods themselves. They go, we got to give this person a message. Who do they respect? They respect Jesus. Okay, I'll pretend to be Jesus. They respect their current teacher. Okay, I'm going to go into a dream and I'm going to, people have dreams about me all the time. I'm 99% sure it's not me. I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's a part of me I'm not aware of that's flying around during the night talking to my students. But I'm pretty sure it's not. But it's good that they dream about me telling them how to do something that makes their life better. It's also good if they have a dream about me and I'm, horrifically frightening them, because then I can go, oh, so I represent your parents, right? Because that's what teachers do. So this is about who is this, your dad or your mom? And then I get to find out. Ooh. So all of this stuff is great. Anyway, but point is I'm glad I motivate you to do that. And I recommend you do that. When you're thinking to yourself, I really should get up off my ass and do this, and I don't want to, and then you can ask, what would Mahadeva say? It doesn't even matter if I would say it or not. It just matters if it motivates you to do it. But I will be there for you guys. I will be there for you in your unconscious to motivate you, to help give you strength in whatever way that is. The way I do it is like a warrior. I tell you things like pull up your big boy pants and pull up your nutsack and drop the victim mentality, and if that doesn't work for you, there's plenty of other teachers that will teach you however they want to teach you. Whatever it is I do that helps you, think about it. What would I say? What would I do? What would Jesus do? What else? Daniel Cardenas, I think we talked about this. You've been on the channel before, so you know better. Kind of have some mouth diarrhea going on here, so I'm going to put you in a timeout. Fem sample CG, honest feeling. When you talked about what you're going to do Tuesday, it made me want to say, I want to feel like that too. Good, you can. I've worked really, really, really hard. If you go back 2 years and you watch my videos of me talking about coming here, you can hear me talk about, here's my plan. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm going to give up my home that I'm renting, and I'm going to put some clothes in a suitcase and a surfboard, and I don't know what I'm going to get. I might end up on, there was some legitimate fear in there. And at the very end, I didn't want to go. At the very end, a week before my trip I was like, you know what? I can eat that. I can afford not to take that trip. I'll lose the money I spent on that ticket. I've got a house here. I'm comfortable here. I have my bike. I have my this. I have everything that I want, which is true. I had everything, generally speaking, on paper. It wasn't enough. I wasn't satisfied with it. But listen, if I had listened to that and I had changed my mind, and I could have convinced anybody, because it was true. I had this great 2-bedroom house in Manhattan Beach, 3 blocks from some great surfing, and I had this great house with a garage, and in the garage I had my surfboards, and I had my practice area, and I had this bike with surfboard racks on it, and I would, ride my bike down onto the strand, and I would look for the perfect, peak, and I would get out and tie my bike up, and I'd go surfing, and then I'd get back on my bike, and I'd ride home, and I'd feel really good. And if there wasn't any waves, I'd ride my bike up and down the strand, and I had everything technically that I have now. And I could have talked myself into it, but you know what would have happened? 6 months later, guess what happened? COVID hit. Instead of being in lockdown in Los Angeles, one of the worst places to be during COVID, instead of being in lockdown miserable, I have been spending 2 years in rainforest, empty beaches, perfect waves, the most beautiful freaking women walking around in bikinis all the time saying, "Hey, how you going?" Talking to me, and the nicest people. There's just no vibe or weirdness or crime or any of that stuff. And I wasn't locked up during COVID. That's because I listened. My soul told me, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, you have everything you want, but you're not happy. You'd be happy over there. You don't know where, but you need to be somewhere. It's not here. And I end up finding the perfect place. And now I know exactly where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. And now I have to go through I'm going to do or die. It's not easy. I can't just go apply and get a visa. I'll have to find some hoops to jump through, because they don't want to give residency to people over the age of 45. They don't want to do it here. They want you to stay, pay money, and then buy stuff and be a tourist, and then they want you to get out. So I'm going to have to work really hard to make that happen. I've worked really hard to have that feeling. So you got to work for it, you guys. Vincent.thunderwizard.com question. I'm finding out that I was emotionally neglected as a child, and I emotionally neglect myself as an adult. That's exactly right. Now you know. It's the same with everybody. This is what I mean when I call programming. It's also what I mean when I say projection. Because your programming is you do it to yourself because you've been trained. So as a kid, I don't know the exact thing, but I'm probably in the general ballpark if you were neglected emotionally, the message of that is you're not lovable, I don't love you. Now, your parents may not have thought that, they may not have felt that. It doesn't matter. You felt that. You got that message. So your programming, whether your parents meant it or did it, is irrelevant. The programming that you programmed yourself with to survive is, in order to get love, I have to be whatever the negative thing is. I have to be silent, I have to be sick, I have to be unhappy, I have to be poor. Whatever it is that you have come up with, in order to get mom and dad's love, I have to be this. That's your programming. So yours is, in order to be loved, I have to neglect myself. Because I was neglected, in order to be loved, I have to neglect myself. That's your programming. It's also going to be your projection. That's going to come out in some projection. You're either going to want, mom's attention more than normal. You're going to be maybe codependent, and you're going to be clingy. Maybe, I'm just guessing, I don't know you. Or the opposite, you'll be really angry, and you'll neglect and abuse others. You'll project that somehow out into, those are two extremes. So now you get it. Now you can take full responsibility, and you can say that, yes, whatever happened made me feel neglected. I didn't deserve that. And then you have to love yourself. You have to parent yourself. When you parent yourself, you become individuated. And healthy people learn how to do this naturally because their parents love them. When they come to their parents and they need mom's love and approval, they need mom's attention, mom drops everything and picks you up and holds you. Even if she's on the phone talking, she'll pick you up and hold you. You see it all the time. You know, little kids will come and hug mom, and mom will be talking with their friend while they're stroking the kid's back. They're saying, I love you in your pain, in your need. You're okay. That feeling is okay. You are valuable just because you have that feeling. Then when they grow up and they become adults, you can't do that in the adult world. You have to stop and have your feelings, and you have to parent yourself. So when you need love and attention and approval, instead of telling yourself, I don't deserve love and approval, I'm going to neglect myself, you then learn how to say, yes, you have this feeling, you're lonely, you need attention, there's nobody here, or this isn't the appropriate place for that, but I love you, meaning your soul. I love you and accept you exactly as you are. And then you're able to tolerate your feeling, and then you don't project it. You don't then become clingy and or become abusive, right? So you're learning that. And you're doing what I recommended, you know. And again, I tell everybody, if you guys take my direction to the letter and do it, your life will change. Not because there's anything special about me, but because it works. I'm only telling you stuff I've proven in my life that works. And, you know, I think I told you to get therapy, or you got therapy and you're doing the 90-day. You're following my directions, and now you're becoming conscious. Again, what I say in the beginning, Jung says, you must make that which is unconscious conscious. You're now conscious. So now you'll be able to determine what to do. Now you won't be able to stop having all kinds of feelings. You're programmed to feel things throughout your life, and the programming will continue. It might lessen its impact, but it's always going to be there. But now you have the ability to then nurture yourself in that, and then you won't be driven by your unconscious, unresolved issues. You will be able to choose what you want, and then, of course, as you know, you will then be Dr. Manhattan, who has the ability to change matter to his desires, because he's the symbol of Dr. Manhattan is that he's completely resolved all of his unconscious issues, and that's why he can float there and glow blue, and that's why he can manipulate, you know, external reality. It means that his unconscious now is 100% available to him to do anything. And that's all that superpowers are. All of you people who want superpowers, you must first have complete, total control over your unconscious. And then you will be able to manifest and, you know, bilocate or float or, you know, know the future. These are all results of your unconscious mind, the most powerful engine in the universe, completely available to help you. If it doesn't, if your life is miserable, it means that you're projecting through your unconscious all of your unconscious issues. I'm not going to give you a pill. It's hard work. You must die in battle to go to Valhalla. If you don't like that, stop watching me now and go watch Zohar the Magnificent tell you to focus on masturbating your feelings to bring whatever it is you think you want. So good for you, Vincent. 12, honest observation. Creative Virgo, when have I asked you to give me an honest observation? I'm not interested in your observations. I'm interested in your questions and your feelings. Your observations mean nothing. I'm going to look at it and you're going to see. I haven't looked at it yet. I already know I'm not going to like it. I could be wrong. I think that I'll give myself a 2% chance of being wrong. Let's see. Honest observation. I was wondering what was different about you today. You are beaming with delight about your soon-to-be new place. All right. There you go. Actually, the truth is there's nothing different about me, as you saw. I was wrong about my prediction about you was wrong. I actually was still fuming. 5 minutes before I did this video, I was still fuming about what I was talking about yesterday, the political stuff. But because I know enough to know that I could feel that, listen, I'm just digging a hole for myself. I literally did not know what to talk about. So I did a rune reading. And the rune reading told me to, I'll tell you the notes that I wrote down. The rune said, how to harness your destiny, karma versus dharma, Wyrd versus Orlog, true meaning of the PERTHRO rune. What is the ego? Overcoming unconscious emotional agendas. What are you willing to sacrifice? And then without any real emotion attached to it, I just started talking about it. And as a result of talking about it, we started talking about my favorite thing, which is me living my soul desire. And then I shared with you what it was. That's why questions are good, because I might be thinking about something, whatever. But if you ask me a question, that's probably going to get me onto something that I'm really excited about, and that's going to put me in a good place. So I'm glad that you saw me beaming with delight, and I'm glad that was helpful for you. What else? Anything else? Nothing else. All right, no other thoughts or questions. We've been on for a while now. How long have we been on for? 2 hours and 45 minutes, so we can definitely call it a day. All right, so that's the deal, guys. If you want what I have, you got to do what I do, and that's what all of these links are. The thunderwizard.com, that is the main channel. My goal is to have 1,000 people subscribed at the Lightning Qigong, the Warrior 90 Day. But even if you subscribe just at the $25 level, you can learn the mastery of shamanism. That's what pays the bills. You guys want to see me happy again? I need that money to go surf, buy surfboards, and take the day off and go surfing. If you want to keep me doing this, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at whatever level you want. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. And seriously, the people that say I can't afford, you seriously can't afford 25 bucks a month? Are you homeless? How is it that that's not possible? So it's hard for me to believe you can't afford it. You don't want to pay for it? Great. The free channel is here for you as well. There's got to be 1,500 videos now. There's hundreds of free meditations. You don't want to pay for it? Then get up off your ass, search through it, find a ritual, a mantra, a qigong that you like, and do it on a daily basis. And you don't have to pay me a fucking cent. If you really want me to be happy, work on your own consciousness and do what you can to avoid the dark ages that are coming if people don't stop projecting their narcissism onto politics. If you really want to make me happy, become a conscious individual who participates in society. That'll be enough payment. Courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my books, all of my DVDs, all of my services. If you're wondering what it is that I do, where do I go to get this? How can I get this from you? Do you want to have a session with me? People ask me, where can I get a session? And that's what the link is there for, courses.thunderwizard.com. Look around, you'll find it. Energyhealing.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to do my regular daily energy thing, but you want me to focus on you, I will do that. And it's been helpful. A lot of people have had experiences. I can't guarantee you will or you won't, but I will give you a meditation to do while I'm doing it, which in and of itself is worth whatever you're going to pay for that. And on top of that, you have me doing my Mahadeva thing, sending you healing energy. And of course, the 90-day challenge is what I'm all about now. If you're doing the Mao Shan or you want to do the Mao Shan, by the way, I just uploaded the metal element. So each time I upload a new element, there's going to be 5, the price goes up. So if you want to save yourself some money and get in on this, do that. If you're doing that, you have to do the 90-day challenge. You don't have to do this if you want to study the Mao Shan, which is the 90-day lightning qigong. That's where I'm going to teach you guys the whole Mao Shan tradition as I have learned it, and the new things that are being downloaded into me all the time about it. So that's why I want 1,000 people. The more people to do that, the more your heart will open, the more awareness you'll have, and the more Dr. Manhattans will have running around helping the world become more conscious. All right, so let's see. Did anything happen since then? Vincent.thunderwizard.com question: loving and nurturing myself is new to me. Any tips? It's like a relationship. You know, you get to know. You go on it. You start dating somebody. You marry somebody. Guess what? You're going to have to get to know them. Find out what they like. You're going to have to learn. So I can't tell you who you are and what you need. You're going to have a relationship with yourself and learn about yourself and treat it like that. Get to know yourself. Take yourself out on dates. Take yourself out to dinner. Take yourself on walks. Ask yourself what you like. Learn. Now you've been programmed to treat yourself a certain way because you're dealing with somebody else's agenda. Now find out what it is that you want. Learn to get to know yourself. What else? David Turner, honest feeling. Growing up, I never really showed negative feelings, but looking back, my parents always seemed loving. Yesterday, my mom calmly told my upset daughter we didn't need to see her cry. Huh. That's, no, I wasn't there. So I don't know, nobody's just one thing. So that could be just something. But for me, just looking at that, that is destructive. That's abusive. Telling your upset daughter we didn't need to see her cry, it isn't helpful. A mom should, mom should say, what is it? Come on. Okay, cry it out. It's okay. What is it? What's bugging you? It's okay that you're sad. That would make me sad too. That's what moms are supposed to do. So if your mom doesn't do that, it means that her mom didn't do that to her, which means that that's why you didn't show any negative feelings, because your mom didn't want them. She wasn't capable of handling them. I don't know anything about your mom. Your mom might be brilliant in every other way. David Turner, honest feeling. Made me realize more why I'm always suppressed myself. Yeah, so now you have to love yourself. When you want to cry, when you want to have a negative feeling, you have to sit yourself down and have them. And there's all kinds of ways to do it. You can go in your mind and you can go back to your 2-year-old self or your 4-year-old self. Tell your 4-year-old self what you wanted to hear. If I'm thinking of, and I did this just recently. I went through a huge shift in me because my brother was so abusive to me when I was a kid. And I can remember being, a little kid, and my brother, who was 5 years older than me, just being so abusive, verbally, psychologically, and he would just tear me down, and he was just so horrible to me. And of course, there was always this threat of violence from him. And I had to go back, and I'll tell you what it was. I bought a surfboard over in the corner there. I bought myself this really big, fancy surfboard, and I felt so guilty, and I felt so embarrassed. And I realized that's because I knew if my brother were here and he saw me spending all that money on this really fancy big surfboard, that he would abuse me for it, that he would call me names, and that he would tell me I didn't deserve it, and all these other things. And I realized that I had to then go back to when I was 10 years old, and when my brother used to abuse me that way. And I remembered times, and in my meditation, I saw my little 10-year-old self, and I talked to myself like I would today. And I said, you know what? That has nothing to do with you. You actually deserve that. You deserve to be happy. You shouldn't hide. You shouldn't deny yourself anything. He's doing that because he didn't get love from that same mom that didn't love you, and you were a threat to him. You were that person that, when you were a baby, you got between him and his mom, and he's hated you for it ever since. But it's because he doesn't feel worthy of love. It's got nothing to do with you. And I held my little 4-year-old self, and I let my my inner child cry, or whatever word you want to use. So another one is, my teacher says, when you're angry like that, imagine a small version of yourself on your chest, and just hold it and let it be upset and really love it and take care of it. Whatever works. Put your hands on your chest when you feel you have a negative feeling, and just love yourself through it and say, it's okay to be upset. And realize that there are people out there. By the way, all those of you MGTOW boys who think that women are out to get you, I shared with you last time that if you cry in front of a woman, about something, the nature of her. If she goes, oh my God, and she wants to listen to you, and she wants to listen to your pain and be there with you, that's somebody you want to put a ring on. If she doesn't, if she says grow up, then you go, okay, we don't want that one. But those of you guys that you think you have to be tough all the time, the women want. That's why they complain. Why don't you talk about your day? Why don't you talk about yourself? Why don't you share yourself with me? I don't know what you're feeling. That's why they do that. They do that because their feminine, maternal, nurturing essence feels loved when you come to them with your feelings. Not when you come to them with, here's what you need to do. You know what your problem is? You know, mansplain. They don't need you to mansplain them. Here's something to remember. I learned this about women. When women are having emotions and are upset and you think that they're complaining at you, lots of times they just want you to listen. They don't need you to do anything. They just want you to listen. And then say, that sounds really horrible, or that sounds really painful, or that sounds really exciting, or that sounds really sad. Can I give you a hug? You don't have to have a discussion about it. You don't have to talk them out. You don't have to fix them. They just want to emotionally connect. If you look at little girls on a playground, little girls will look each other in the face and they'll hold each other's face and they'll do this and they'll be really excited and they're sharing feelings. Boys will stand next to each other. They'll stand next to each other and they'll look out on the playground and they'll talk to each other, but they'll look out on the playground. They won't look each other in the eye. So men have to learn how to treat women like women and stop treating women like men, which is you just talk out the side of your face and you tell them facts, you don't tell them feelings. Because on the battlefield, if you start talking about feelings, you'll get killed. That's why testosterone makes men stand next to each other and talk out. They don't look each other in the face and get excited. And that's why as a man, when your girlfriend is upset with you and she's upset and you're like this, you get upset. You don't understand. You think she's attacking you. She's not. She's trying to connect with you. All right. Is that all? Nope. That's it. That's for another video. All right, guys. That's it. Talk to you when I talk to you. Take care of yourselves.